Hello everybody and welcome to the final round of the 2021 GP4 World ChampCar Offline Championship. And on a day that Germany got beat by Japan in the World Cup, we are here at Suzuka in Japan for the final race of the season where the Drivers' Championship will be decided today. I'm your commentator for today, JW97, and I'm joined today by the host himself, Yuri Marta.
Hello, it's your god here, who's fed up with snow.
Yes, especially given that Yuri had some news today that at the weekend there's going to be some more snow, so there's a chance he might not even have a weekend to relax really. But anyway, we're going to get the final qualifying session underway here at the Suzuka International Racing Course, and the first driver out on track will be Igor Peter in the Andretti, and of course he retired last time out at Fuji thanks to a mechanical failure, so that's why he's the first car out on track. And of course last time out at Fuji the team's championship was decided as a result of Peter's retirement, which meant that Team Penske became the first ever World Champ Car Teams champions. So that championship has been decided. Now it is just the Drivers' Championship. We know that a Team Penske is going to win the Drivers' title this season. It's just which Team Penske driver is it going to be? Is it going to be Bruno de Barros or is it going to be Bartosz Klos? Klos, of course, is on a run of form in the last four races, having won, well, the last four races, of course, and because of de Barros' retirement last time out at Fuji, it has meant that the gap has come down to just 3 points between both de Barros and Klos. It's really anybody's guess going into this round, Yuri.
Yeah, it's basically whichever finishes ahead, but I do personally feel like Bruno has performed slightly better this season and probably should have won in Fuji, but um, the pit lane is what it is.
It is what it is indeed, and it allowed Klos to gain in the championship, which means that we have a title decider here at Suzuka. Of course, we had a title decider yesterday in Formula E, which was won by Michael Moccia in the Mercedes, and now we've got one here today at Suzuka, and it will be interesting to see which Penske is going to walk away after today's stream as the first ever World Champ Car champion. But anyway, Igor Peter is going to be the first driver to start his lap as he just makes his way down the pit straight. He's just accelerated out of the Casio chicane, and Peter starts his lap now. Then the next driver on track will be Frederick Soper in the Carlin, another driver who retired last time out at Fuji Speedway. As Peter now then makes his way around turn 2 before making his way up towards the S's now then. Through into the left, then into the right, and then into the left and right-hander. We've got Igor Peter in the Andretti Autosport car as he now makes his way around the flat-out left-hander as he will soon be approaching the end of the first sector very, very soon. Let's see what the first sector is going to look like for him, and it is a 31.432 in the first sector as he makes his way underneath the crossover section of the track, the only figure of 8 track that we've had on the calendar, as he goes underneath the bridge and up towards the hairpin now then, breaking down towards his hairpin. Through the long left-hander he goes before he makes his way down towards this long swooping right-hander on the racetrack now then. Then he'll approach Spoon Curve as he'll try and go as much as far to the edge of the track as possible through the first part of Spoon, and now into the second part will go Peter as he will now make his way towards the end of Sector 2 very, very soon, which will be at the end of this back straight, which this is actually a support pit straight, in fact, because that is actually a club pit lane over there, as you can see, as he does a 115.089 in that middle sector as he now approaches the Casio chicane. Through into the right and left-hander we go now then, and Igor Peter is just coming around the right-hander now then. Down the pit straight goes Igor Peter in the Andretti Autosport as he is now going to cross the line. What is the benchmark time going to be? And it's a 135.758 as we now look at Frederick Soper, who is preparing to start his lap. And I wouldn't be surprised if Peter ends up staying at the top for quite a while, considering he's in an Andretti, of course.
Yeah, I was just about to say, because he's the first out in a really fast car, I think that time is going to be really strong benchmark to know if your lap is any good or not.
Indeed so, as Frederick Soper is now just about to start his lap now then, as the next driver on track will be TJ Papiro in the Maya Shank racing car, as Soper now then makes his way through turn 2, as he will now make his way towards the S's now then. Through into the left, then into the right-hander he goes before making his way through the next part of the S's now. Then, of course, we've seen several times in the practice session during the top class that people do tend to make mistakes through the second part of those S's, really, and have a heavy smash with the wall. We saw Daniel Fraser do that in the practice session this season, I believe. Soper up towards the first sector, and as expected, he's 7 tenths down on Peter in the first sector, so way off the Andretti in that first sector now. Then, of course, not expecting to match the Andretti, of course, given that the Andretti, of course, this season has been a front-running car, the only one that's really been competitive compared to the Penske's this season. Soper now then just making his way around the long swooping right-hander now then before he makes his way towards Spoon Curve now then as he approaches that at around 295 kilometers an hour for them. Through it into Spoon Curve he goes. Through the second part now then he goes on the racetrack as he will now flick up the gears through second, third, fourth, and then up into fifth, and then eventually he'll go up into sixth gear around about now then, and let's see what his second sector is going to look like. 1.7 seconds off, so it looks like it's going to be quite a big gap between Peter and Soper after this lap now then, as Soper comes down towards the Casio chicane, down to first gear, through into there, through into the left, through into the right, or right or left I should say, through the right-hander now then we'll go Soper in the Carlin now then as he makes his way onto the pit straight. He should slot in second place, but what's the gap going to be? It's a 2.1 second gap at 1:37 for Frederick Soper there as we now look at TJ Papero in the Meyer Shank racing car. Another disappointing race for him last time out at Fuji Speedway, and if it's anything to go by, given the pace that the Meyer Shank racings have shown this season, he should theoretically be behind Frederick Soper, but we'll see, of course. We're not 100% sure if that was just a poor lap from Soper or whether the Carlin just seemed to be a little bit off the pace compared to the Andretti, and he's still probably a little bit quicker than the Meyer Shank, but we will see. Papero now then just coming around the right-hander now then, as Papero now then makes his way onto the pit straight as he starts his lap. Now then, as he approaches the first corners, Bruno de Barros will be next out on track, one of the championship contenders. 309 kilometers an hour, TJ Papero approached into the first couple of corners there as he goes around turn 2 up towards the S's now. Then he'll go through into the left, through into the right, and then through into the left-hander we go. As he will now come around the long swooping right-hander he goes now, then making his way up towards the flat-out left-hander he goes, and let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Igor Peter now then. His first sector time, he's actually 3 tenths down in the first sector, so in fact, he's actually up on Soper in the first sector. Makes me think that... Yeah, a lot faster than Soper. Makes me think that maybe Soper maybe just had a poor lap on that occasion.
It feels like so, because the gap seemed unnecessarily big.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that with Papero into the second sector. We know that Soper was around about 1.7 seconds, I think, off in the middle sector. So let's see what Papero is like, as he's soon going to be coming up towards that, as he now just negotiates around Spoon Curve now then, making his way down towards the support pit straight. And as he now makes his way towards the 130R now then, let's see what his second sector is going to look like. 9 tenths down, so yeah, he's definitely quicker than Soper by a lot here, and I would imagine he's going to slot into second place with this lap, providing he doesn't make a really big error going through into the Casio chicane now then, which he doesn't. Going through into the right hand, and then goes TJ Papero in the Meyer Shank racing car, as Papero is going to start finish his lap and goes into second place, 1.1 seconds off. So yeah, that just confirms that Soper's lap was just poor there, Yuri.
Yeah, Papero was almost a second faster than Soper, so, and their cars are pretty similar in pace. I'd argue the Meyer Shank is worse, even, so maybe there was some mistake we didn't catch, or maybe Soper just had a completely horrible lap. Let's see. It will be interesting to see how the rookie teams do against Soper's lap.
Yeah, indeed. As we now look at Bruno de Barros now there, who of course retired last time out in Fuji thanks to that pit lane entrance glitch, and as a result blew the championship open for Kloss to gain on him massively in the championship, hence why we've got a title decider here. But Bruno de Barros, the first of the 2 championship contenders to start a lap. Next up on track will be Kim Sung-min in the Penske now then, as he just goes through into the S's now then, as he will now make his way through into the right-hander now then we go. And now up towards the flat-out left-hander we'll go the Brazilian now then. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Igor Peter now then. And he is 16 thousandths up in the first sector. Not that much of a gap, but he's still purple in the first sector. So, of course, we're expecting him to compete with Peter, given he's in a Penske. But only 16 thousandths covering the two Brazilians in that first sector now then, as De Barros just goes around the hairpin now then, as he will soon be approaching the right-hander now then, through into the long swooping right-hander. We'll go Bruno De Barros in the Penske now then, as he will soon be coming up towards Spoon Curve at around 295 kilometers an hour. So obviously it seems that everybody's approaching that at around 295 kilometers an hour, as Bruno De Barros now, they're making his way down the support pit straight now then, before approaching the first sector. Is he still going to second sector? Sorry, will he still be purple in that second sector? Let's see. And he will, but only by 37 thousandths of a second. Could still lose it all in this last sector if he makes a mistake now then. Let's see. De Barros now then, into the last chicane he goes, through into the right, then into the left-hander he goes, and now coming around the long, swooping right-hander will go Bruno De Barros in the Team Penske car. Can he go quicker than Peter? Down the pit straight, and De Barros is now going to cross the line, and he goes second. He loses time in that last sector. Despite going purple in the first two sectors, he loses time in the last sector, and he's 11 thousandths down on Peter, and slots into second place there.
Very interesting. So, based on that, it seems like Peter's lap is very good. But I do think this also gives Klaus the chance to take an early chance at the pole position.
Indeed so, as Kim Son-min now making his way through into the Casio chicane there, as he's about to prepare to start his lap in the manor now then, as he starts his lap around about now then, as Simon Mutka will be next out on track in the second of the two Carlin cars. It'll be give us an idea to see whether the Carlins are off the pace or whether it was just Soper who was way off the pace on that occasion, because he's just under a second behind Papero after his flying lap here at Suzuka. Min now then through to the S's now, then he goes through into the right-hander goes the South Korean driver, as he will now make his way up through the flat-out left-hander. He will go on the racetrack. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like then. His first sector time, and he is 9 tenths down in the first sector. So he's slower than Papero in the first sector, but in fact he's slower also than Soper, I should say, because Soper was actually 7 tenths down in that first sector. So he seems like he's slower than anybody in that first sector is Kim Son-min, as he now makes his way through into the hairpin in the Mercedes-powered manner, as he will now come around the long swooping right-hander. He will go. And soon now then, he will be approaching the Spoon Curve now then, as he'll be approaching that. He actually took that at 296 kilometers an hour that time by, so he actually went there at a higher speed compared to everybody else. So maybe there is still a little bit of grunt in that Mercedes. It's just they just can't seem to harness it very well. It just seems that they can't extract it very well compared to their competitors, or maybe they just can't set up the car correctly. But anyway, 2.1 seconds down in that middle sector. So yeah, I think Min is probably going to end up being last out of the 5 competitors who are about to do a lap, as now Min comes around the Casio chicane now then, just coming around the long swooping right-hander. Here comes Kim Son-min then in the manner, as he will now come across the line. And what can he do? And he goes into 5th position, 2.4 seconds off of Peter, and around 3 tenths slower than Frederick Soper. Speaking of Carlins, here is Simon Mutka in the second of the two Carlins now then, as Mutka will be starting his lap very, very soon now, as he just makes his way down this support pit straight before approaching 130R. So Mutka now then just coming around the left-hander now then, and approaching the Casio triangle, as it's also referred to. Through into the right and into the left he goes, and Mutka just about to start his lap very, very soon now then. Around the long swooping right-hander he goes, as he now starts his lap here in the Carlin, and it will give us a good indication as to see whether or not his time will be similar to Soper's or not. But next up on track will be Jordan Howe in the McLaren. It will be his last chance to try and score some points this season, because along with 2 other drivers this season, he has yet to score a point. The other 2 drivers, of course, being Yuri Gabriel and Kim Son-min, who we just saw a little bit earlier on, who went into 5th place there. Here comes Simon Mutka now then. He's just coming around the S's and now up towards the flat-out left-hander, and we'll see what his first sector is going to look like, especially compared to his teammate Soper. What's his first sector going to look like? And he's 4 tenths down in the first sector, so he's 3 tenths up on his teammate Soper in the first sector. So we'll see how his next 2 sectors compare, as he now makes his way up towards the hairpin. But safe to say, he is slower than Papero in that first sector, because Papero was actually 3 tenths down on Peter in that first sector. So obviously something to keep an eye on there, as Mutka just makes his way around the long swooping right-hander, and now approaching a spoon curve now then, through into the first part of spoon and then into the second part. He will go now then, as he will now make his way onto the back straight now then, the support pitch straight, as he will now make his way towards 130R now then, and he's 9 tenths down in that second sector. So it's roughly around about the same sort of pace as what Papero did in that second sector. He might have gained a little bit on Papero in that second sector now that I come to think of it, but we'll see. Mutka now then, just coming around the right-hander, and the Polish driver now then is going to cross the line in the car lane, and he goes into third position. So he was able to gain just about gaining for the Papero, so he did gain some time on him in the second sector and only just slots into third position. So he's in fact an entire, well, pretty much just under a second quicker than teammate Soper. And so that's pretty much that then. As we now look at Jordan Howe, as he's prepared to start his lap. Along with two other drivers, of course, it's his last chance to start, well, to get a point in this race, because he's had quite a bit of bad luck as Howell this season. It's his last chance to try and score some points, as meanwhile Spain have scored in the World Cup match against Costa Rica, for anybody wondering. But anyway, as Jordan Howell is starting his lap now then, as Yuri Gabriel will be next out on track, another driver who's still yet to score a point this season. As Howell coming around the first couple of corners on the racetrack in the Arrow McLaren SP. Of course, it's McLaren's last race with Chevrolet Power, of course, because next season they will become the official BMW team in 2022, taking that mantra from Pyramid Racing, who will just become a customer team to BMW in 2022. So there'll be two BMW Power teams next season. As Jordan Howell now, they're making his way towards the end of the first sector, and he's 1/10 down on Peter in that first sector. So a decent first sector for the McLaren driver, and definitely way quicker than both Papero, than the likes of Muka, Papero, Soper, and Min at this stage. As Howell now, they're making his way around the hairpin now then, the McLaren, and now just coming around the long swooping right-hander on the racetrack now then, as he now makes his way towards the spoon curve now then, as Howell is now coming down towards the support pit straight now then, and let's see what his second sector is going to look like now then in the Arrow McLaren SP. And let's see what his second sector is going to look like. He's 4 tenths down in that middle sector. So, yep, I am expecting him to slot in third position as he now comes up towards the Casio triangle now, then through into the right and then into the left-hander he goes, as he will now make his way around the right-hander, making his way onto the pit straight, and Jordan Howell is going to cross the line, and he goes into third position, 5 tenths off of Peter. So as expected, he does slot into the top three there, as we now look at Yuri Gabriel in the first of the two Vipers to come out on track, as he's now preparing to start his lap very, very soon. Through into the Casio triangle he goes now then on the racetrack, as now we come down the pitch straight. As hello Bruno de Bauers, who's in the stream chat, hoping to try and win the title this week if he can. As Gabriel starts his lap, and next up on track will be Francesco La Rosa in the second Manor car. As Gabriel through into the first couple of corners he goes on the racetrack now then, using quite a lot of curb on the outside, as he now makes his way through into the S's, as of course his main competition will be with Kim Sun Min, of course, who's currently in 7th place, as now the Brazilian driver, obviously like with Howell and of course Min, last chance for him to score a point this season, as Gabriel makes his way towards the end of the first sector, and he's 9 tenths down in that first sector. So he's roughly around the same sort of pace as what Min did in the first sector. I think he might actually be slightly quicker than Min in that first sector, but we'll see if he's able to continue that in the last two sectors, as he just comes around the hairpin now then, and now approaching the long swooping right-hander he will go now then, as he will now make his way towards Spoon Curve, and let's see what speed he's going to approach that corner at. Quite a bit lower, in fact, slower than we've seen from, in fact, Kim Sun Min. In fact, we saw him do around about 296 kilometers an hour approaching the Spoon Curve, but only 294 that time by for Yuri Gabriel. As let's see what his second sector is going to look like now then, as he approaches the end of the second sector, 2 seconds down in that middle sector. So He is still roughly around about the same sort of pace as what Kim Sung Min is, but will he be able to get ahead or will he just slot behind him? Let's see. Through into the right-hander now then. We'll go Yuri Gabriel in the Viper. As Yuri Gabriel now then comes across the line as he goes into 8th. He actually slots behind Min in the end there. Then. So P8 for Yuri Gabriel as we now look at Francesco La Rosa in the second of the two Manor cars. The Italian driver, the only person to score points for Manor this season. His teammate Kim Sung Min yet to score a point. Of course, both Viper and Manor only scoring a point this season, but because of higher results, Manor are of course ahead of Viper in that team's championship. But if a Viper can creep into the points in this race, Viper could easily snatch that 10th place off of Manor after this race. But we will wait and see on that, of course. But anyway, La Rosa starts his lap. Next up on track will be Joao Pedro Kirby in the Chip Ganassi racing car. As now La Rosa makes his way through into the first couple of corners on the racetrack now then, as he uses a lot of curve on the outside, making his way towards the S's, through into the left, through into the right, and then into the left-hander. He will now go, and of course he will be comparing his times just like with Gabriel earlier to that of his teammate Min and of course Yuri Gabriel. But anyway, La Rosa through into the flat-out left-hander now then he goes, and let's see what his first sector is going to look like. And he's 5 times down in that first sector, so a pretty decent first sector for La Rosa, it's fair to say, because both Min and Gabriel were around about give or take 9/10 down in the first sector, so a bit of a decent first sector there for La Rosa, even quicker than Soper, who of course was 7/10 down in the first sector. So La Rosa looking at a pretty decent lap at the moment in the Manor, as he now comes up towards the end of well, not the end of the second sector. He's just coming up towards the Spoon Curve, I should say, as he now just comes around the left-hander now then, and now he comes down towards the support pitch straight, which will take him towards the end of that second sector. Let's see what the second sector is going to look like for La Rosa now then compared to Peter. 1.2 seconds down in that second sector, so I think he could slot into 6th place with this time, which will be a decent effort from the Manor driver. Let's see if he can keep it up. No real mistakes going through into the Casio triangle there, as now La Rosa comes onto the pit straight, and across the line will go the Italian driver, and he does slot into 6th, a very decent time there.
Yeah, very good lap considering what car he's driving. I think that was an impressive lap.
Indeed, and 6/10 quicker than Frederick Soper. So Soper is probably thinking, what on earth happened on his lap on that occasion? But anyway, here is Joao Pedro Kirby, who's about to start his lap in the Chip Ganassi racing car. Of course, for Chip Ganassi, it's their last race with Honda Power, because of course next season they'll be switching to Mercedes engines in 2022. Of course, a couple of races ago, we mentioned that Joao Pedro Kirby was showing a little bit of concern about Chip Ganassi switching to Mercedes power, given what Viper and Manor have been able to do with that engine. But given we've seen a bit of grunt from the Mercedes engine in the back of Kim Sung Min's car as he was approaching Spoon Curve, maybe it might not be a bad move for Chip Ganassi to switch to Mercedes engine in 2022. But we shall see, of course, as Kirby making his way towards the end of the first sector, as Bartosz Bracki will be in the next car on track. 1/10 down on Peter in the first sector there. So I think he's roughly around about the same sort of pace as what Jordan Howell was able to do in that first sector. So it could be pretty tight between both Kirby and Howell for this lap. But we will wait and see as Kirby just comes out of the hairpin there, as he will now make his way around the long swooping right-hander now. Then making his way down towards Spoon Curve. Let's see what speed he approaches that corner. 295 I think he just clocked there before he had to break down for Spoon Curve there. Through into the left-hander now then he goes, as he will now come down towards the back straight now then. Let's see what the second sector is going to look like for Joao Pedro Kirby compared to Igor Peter. 3/10 down in that in the second sector, and yep, looking roughly the same as what Howell did, but I think Howell might have been slightly up on Kirby in that sector. As I just say that, he's just made a bit of an error going through into the Casio triangle, so any chance he had of being ahead of Howell on the grid, that's going to be down the toilet. But I would imagine he's still going to be in 4th despite that mistake across the line. Nope. And no, he's not. He's down in 6th place, so he lost a lot of time thanks to that mistake. He would have been at around about where Jordan Howell would have been if he didn't make that mistake, but sadly that lap went down the toilet.
Yeah, on the final possible moment he messed up his lap.
Yes, indeed, and so obviously as a result, Kirby down in 6th, and he slots right behind TJ Papero and in front of Francesco La Rosa as a result of that. As we now look at Bartosz Bracchi in the second Viper. Of course, we saw Francesco La Rosa do a decent lap earlier on, and given that Bracchi is the one that scored points for Viper early on in the season, and given that overall he's probably had better pace compared to Yuri Gabriel, even with the bad luck that Gabriel has had this season, we'll see if Bracchi can perform something similar to what La Rosa did. As the next car out on track will be Alex-Eric Lucien in the Peugeot, as Bracchi just comes around turn number 2 now, then in the Mercedes-powered Viper, and now up towards the S's, through into the left, through into the right, and now into the left-hander he goes, and now coming towards the long swooping right-hander he goes. Out of the S's he goes. Well, this is the last part of the S's, then this flat-out left-hander. Let's see what Bracchi's second sector is going to look like now then. And he is 6 tenths down in the first sector. La Rosa was 5 tenths down in the first sector. So whilst he's quicker than both Min and Gabriel in that first sector, he is down on La Rosa. So we'll obviously see if he can keep this up. But he is up on Soper though, because of course Soper was 7 tenths down in that first sector. So Bracchi is up on Soper as well. So if Bracchi also gets ahead of Soper, I guess Soper will definitely be questioning what on earth happened on that lap, because we didn't see any visible errors from Soper on his flying lap here at Suzuka. So I can't really explain that. Meanwhile, Spain have just scored a second goal in the World Cup, for anybody who's curious. It's now 2-0 to Spain against Costa Rica. But anyway, back to the World Champ Car action. Bracchi approaching the end of the second sector, 1.5 seconds down on Peter. So, yeah, I think he will slot just in behind La Rosa. But can he get himself in front of Soper? Let's see. Soper is around 2.1 seconds off of Peter. Let's see. So Bracchi comes down the pit straight, and across the line will come the Polish driver. Across the line he goes, and he goes into 8th position. He does slot in front of Soper there. So two, you could say, quote-unquote backmarker cars getting in front of Soper there.
Yeah, I think that tells that Sopa's lap wasn't very good, but also, especially La Rosa had a good lap out there, and as you can see, like La Rosa and Bracchi are both way up on the other two backmarker cars or rookie cars.
Indeed, as we now look at Alex-Eric Lucien, another rookie who is just making his way, who's just started his lap, a rookie to the OC, that is, as Thomas Cassidy will be the next driver out on track in the Meyer-Shank racing car, as he just comes around turn number 2, then does the Frenchman. He just missed out on points last time out at Fuji Speedway, but looking to see if he could get points here at Suzuka. Coming around the S's now, then will come Alex-Eric Lucien, as he now makes his way around the long swooping right-hander up towards the flat-out left-hander. He goes now then. Let's see what his first sector looks like compared to Igor Peter now then. His first sector time, he's 4 tenths down in the first sector. So he's slower than both Howell and Kirby was in the first sector. But as we know, Kirby made a mistake in the last sector. So obviously we'll keep an eye on that. But looking at, as long as he makes no mistakes, should slot himself into 4th position. But we will wait and see on that one as Lucien just makes his way around the long swooping right-hander now. Then he goes as he now approaches Spoon Curve, just clocking 294 kilometers an hour there, so not exactly having the top end speed in that Peugeot there. But anyway, Lucien coming down the hill now then as he now makes his way towards the end of the second sector now then. Let's see what sector 2 is going to look like for him. He's 1 second down in that middle sector, so I would say he's in the second sector, so I guess he's lost quite a lot in that middle sector, so maybe not 4th place after all, given that Muka's only 1.1 behind Peter. Same goes for Papero as well, so maybe he could slot himself around where Muka and Papero are, but we'll see. Anyway, Lucien across the line, what's his last sector going to look like? And he goes into 7th, so he actually lost quite a bit of time and slots behind Joao Pedro Kirby, who, let's not forget, made a mistake going through into the Casio chicane there. So a bit disappointed with Lucien's lap there, to be honest.
Yeah, his first sector was good, but the rest of the lap wasn't. I think he will be disappointed with how the lap ended for him.
Perhaps indeed, and he'll be wondering what on earth happened in those last 2 sectors. But anyway, Thomas Cassidy is next up on the track in the second of the Meyer-Shank racing cars, as Florian Volker in the McLaren will be next up onto the racetrack, as the second of the McLarens will be going out very, very soon, as Cassidy makes his way out of turn 2 now then, up towards the S's now. Then he goes through into the left, through into the right, and then through into the left-hander now. Then he goes at Cassidy now then making his way around the long swooping right-hander. He goes up towards the flat-out left-hander. Goes the Venezuelan driver. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like in the first sector. His first sector time, he's 8 tenths down in
Poor,
that first
very
sector.
poor.
As yeah, doesn't look like the best lap. He's up on well, he's up on the manners and the well of the on both Min and Gabriel, but clearly not a very good first sector, especially when you look at Papero's first sector a little bit earlier on. He seems like he's down on his teammate at this stage. As Cassidy just coming around the long swooping right-hander he goes now then, as he will now come up towards Spoon Curve, just clocking 296 kilometers an hour there. So the Honda Power having some grunt approaching the Spoon Curve there, as Cassidy now then will come down towards the end of the second sector now then. Let's see what sector 2 is going to look like for Thomas Cassidy now then, as he approaches Spoon Curve. As he does, he's 1.8 seconds down in that middle sector. So I think he's going to either slot just in front of Soper or just slot behind him. He will get ahead of both Min and Gabriel, that's for sure. But I'm not really sure compared to Soper. It depends on how he hooks up this last sector. But anyway, Cassidy comes down the pit straight now, then and across the line. He will now go, and he goes into 10th position. He just slots in front of Soper there in the end. But yeah, compared to Papero, a very poor lap. Just under a second covers the two Meyer Shank racing cars.
Yeah, wasn't a good lap, let's say that.
Yeah, not the best of laps, and we're looking to see if he can recover that in the races. Here is Florian Volker, who's next up on track, and, well, what a story he had at Fuji, it's fair to say. I mean, he was looking good for a podium in that race, but in untypical Florian Volker fashion, it's fair to say, because we don't usually see him do this, he made a very, very big error, which cost him a podium in that race.
Yeah, in the first part of the race he showed what he is capable of in his best, and then later on he showed why he's fallen off.
Indeed so, as Volker now then comes up towards the end of the first sector. Hal had a decent first sector. Let's see what Volker can do. Well, he's 1/10 down in that first sector, so he's roughly around about the same sort of pace as what Hal was able to do in that first sector, but whether he can keep this up, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, we saw that Kirby earlier on messed it up in the last sector when he was on a similar sort of lap to what Howell was on, so let's see what Volker can do. It does seem that McLaren have got some decent pace around here at Suzuka, both Volker and Howell showing some very good pace in the Arrow McLaren SP, but we'll see if Volker is able to keep it up. Volker, of course, has got some very good history around here at Suzuka, having won here, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a total of 4 times in his top class career, winning here in 2013, 2015, 2017, and 2018. So, obviously, some good memories here at Suzuka for the 5-time top class champion. He's 3 tenths down in the second sector. I think he might be just slightly quicker than Howell in that second sector, but we'll see if he can keep it up as he goes through the Casio chicane. And unlike Kirby, no real mistakes from Volker there, as he now just comes around the long swooping right-hander now then, as Volker just makes his way onto the pit straight and across the line. He will now go, and he goes into 3rd position. He just slots just in front of Howell, and he's 4 tenths off of Peter. A very good lap there for Florian Volker in the McLaren. As we now look at Balint Zolga in the BMW Pyramid racing car, and we talked about it earlier on when we were riding on board with John Howell's lap, but this will be the last time that Pyramid will have a partnership with BMW in World Champ Car. They will still have BMW engines from next season, but there will only be a customer team to BMW in 2022, which could hamper them a little bit because, of course, BMW are going to be partners with McLaren from next season. So next season, McLaren's team will be known as the BMW Arrow McLaren SP team, whereas Pyramid will just be known as Pyramid Racing next season. Of course, as mentioned, they'll still have a BMW engine in 2022, will Pyramid, but it will not be in a partnership with BMW, more of a customer team instead, because BMW, of course, are partnering with McLaren instead, as mentioned, for the second time. But anyway, Toby Holloway will be next up on track in the Peugeot, as Zolga has just started his lap now, then, as he just comes out of turn number 2 now, then, the Hungarian driver flicking the car in through into the S's now, then, and up towards the left-hander now, then he will go, as he'll now come around the long swooping right-hander, and then up towards the flat-out left-hander now, then he will go. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Peter. We know that BMW have had some good pace in qualifying before in the past, and Zolga finds himself 1/10 down in that first sector, so roughly around about the same sort of pace as what the McLarens are doing. I think maybe slightly quicker. Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think they need slightly faster than both Volker and Howell there.
Around half
Yeah,
a tenth faster.
yeah, half a tenth faster, I think. Zolga just said there. Zolga just said. Jimmy just said that. Yoga was in that sector.
Hello,
There's been
it's
a
me,
penalty given.
Valensolga.
Sorry, I got my words a little bit muddled. But meanwhile, in the football, Spain have just been given a penalty, meanwhile, so they could make it 3-0 in a little bit. But anyway, as Zolga is now just coming up towards the end of the second sector, what is his lap time going to look like compared to Peter now then? And he's 3 tenths down in that middle sector, so he might have lost a little bit, I think, in that middle sector. But I think he is going to be roughly close, maybe even splitting the two McLarens if he can't go quicker than Volker. But we will see as he now just comes out of the Casio chicane as Spain make it 3-0 in the World Cup match against Costa Rica, having scored that penalty. But anyway, back to World Champ Car. Zolga crosses the line and goes into third position. So we found some time back in that last sector, and he's 3 tenths off of Peter in the end there then. So Zolga just able to slot in front of the two McLaren drivers there. Pretty much advertising to McLaren what sort of deal they're getting involved with BMW in 2022. But anyway, Toby Holloway is next up on track in the Peugeot. His teammate Lucien, despite having a very good first sector earlier on, didn't really hook it up well in the last two sectors. So we'll see if that is going to be a similar case to Toby Holloway or not, as he just comes around the Casio chicane there, going around the long sweeping right-hander. Now then we go on the racetrack as Holloway is about to start his flying lap then here in Suzuka. As next up on track will be Nicholas Zorbach in the second of the BMW Pyramid Racing cars, as now Holloway just comes around the first couple of corners on the racetrack. As now just coming around the left, right, and then into the left-hander now then we will go. And let's see what Toby Holloway is able to do, as he will soon be approaching the end of the first sector very, very soon. Through the left-hander he goes now then. Let's see what his first sector is going to curtail, as his first sector time, he's actually 6 tenths down in the first sector, so off on his teammate in the first sector there. But we saw that Lucien wasn't able to hook up the last two sectors very well, so we'll wait and see if that's going to be a similar case with Toby Holloway. Lucien was around about 1.0 seconds off of Peter in the middle sector, so we'll see if that's going to be the same case for Toby Holloway or not. But he is down on his teammate in the first sector by around 2 tenths of a second, as Holloway just comes up towards the spoon curve now then, as he just goes around the first part and then into the second part of the track. The second part of the spoon curve he will now go, as he will now come down towards the end of the second sector now then, as let's see what his second sector is going to look like. 1.5 seconds down, so yep, this is looking like a pretty poor lap for Holloway. In fact, I think he's going to even be behind Francesco La Rosa, because he's actually 1.5 seconds off of Peter overall. So I think he could slot in between both La Rosa and Bracchi here, but we'll see. So Holloway not on a very good lap here, as he's now going to cross the line, and he does slot in between the pair of them. He goes into no, in fact he slots behind Bracchi, in fact, so he actually didn't split both La Rosa and Bracchi. He actually just slot behind both of them there. Not a very good lap for Toby Holloway, and he's roughly around 5 tenths off teammate Alex-Eric Lucien after the lap. Not a very good pair of laps there for both the Peugeot drivers. But anyway, Nicholas Zorbach now then is next up on the track in the BMW Pyramid Racing car, as could be a last chance for him to try and impress, because of course let's not forget, along with Michael Mocho and also Florian Volker and also Robert Ionescu as well, they are contenders for that second Haas seat alongside Barches Kloss, of course. So last chance for them to try and impress here in World Champ Car, as next up on track will be Gabriel Gomez in the second Andretti car, who didn't have the best of races last time out at Fuji Speedway, as Zorbach just comes around the S's now, then through into the left-hander he goes, and then around the right-hander will go the German driver, and he will now come up towards flat out left-hander he goes. Let's see what his first sector time is going to look like. We know that Zorbach has been a bit of a qualifying master this season, as he's actually up on Peter in the first sector by 86 thousandths of a second. As I talked about him being a bit of a qualifying master this season, he actually goes purple on Peter in that first sector by 86 thousandths of a second. But can the German driver keep it up as he now makes his way around the hairpin now then, as he will now come up towards the long sweeping right-hander on the racetrack as he'll soon be approaching Spoon Curve, and we'll see what sort of speed he's going to be approaching on the run up to that, as he does around about 296 kilometers an hour up towards Spoon Curve there. Through into the second part of Spoon will go Nicholas Zorbach in the BMW Pyramid Racing car, heading down towards the end of the second sector. Now then, let's see if he's still going to remain purple compared to Peter in that second sector, up towards sector 2, and he's 1/10 up in that second sector. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, this should be a very, very good lap for Nicholas Zorbach, which should put him at the top of the timing sheet. But we will see Zorbach coming out of the Casio triangle now then, as he now makes his way around the long sweeping right-hander. Is Zorbach going to snatch pole off of Peter here at the moment? Zorbach, across the line he goes. Can he go top? Yes, he can. He lost a little bit of time in that last sector, but he still goes to the top by 89 thousandths of a second, a 1:35.669. A very good lap there for Nicholas Zorbach.
Yeah, he's completely come alive in this series, I think.
As indeed. Of course, Zorbach is still yet to get a pole this season, but he has had some brilliant qualifying sessions this season. Could he be looking at his first pole in World ChampCar in the final race of the season? Well, he will need to hold on, because there is still some tough competition coming on, such as this guy, Gabriel Gomez, who has also been a bit of a pole master this season, it's fair to say. He has taken pole 3 times this season. In fact, in the last 2 races, Gomez has been taking pole position. So could he be looking to try and get his 3rd consecutive pole here? As the next one on track will be Sam Thompson in the first of the 2 Ferraris in this session, as now Gomez just comes around the S's now, then through into the left-hander he goes, and then approaching the right-hander now, then we'll go Gabriel Gomez in the Andretti. Can he match Zorbach's time in the first sector as he goes around the long swooping right-hander? What's the first sector time going to look like for Gabriel Gomez in the Andretti? And he's up by quite a margin in that first sector by 0.2 of a second. So Gomez is on a very good lap here in the Andretti as he now makes his way up towards the hairpin now then, as he will now come towards that left-hander now then, as he just misses the curb on the entrance of that corner there. Coming around the long swooping right-hander will go Gomez in the Andretti now then, as he will soon be coming up towards the end of the second sector very soon, once he passes Spoon Curve and then approaches the end of that back straight. Through into the second part of Spoon will go Gabriel Gomez, as he now comes down the hill towards the support pit straight, and he will soon be approaching the end of sector 2 very, very soon now then. On the racetrack, can he set a purple middle sector? He can. Look at that, for half a second up in this middle sector. As long as Gomez doesn't mess this up, he should be good to snatch pole off of Zorbach. So as he comes around the Casio triangle for the last time now, then through into the right-hander goes Gabriel Gomez. This should be enough to get him to the top of the timing sheets. Gabriel Gomez, across the line he goes. Will he go to the top of the timing sheets? And he does by a whopping 0.7 of a second. He breaks into the 1:34s, a 1:34.919. An amazing lap there.
Getting close to that.
Yeah, Gabriel Gomez with an amazing lap. Of course, we mentioned that he's taken pole in the last 2 races. Is he looking at a 3rd consecutive pole here today? Well, we'll have to wait and see. There's still 4 more cars left to do a lap. That being the 2 Ferraris of Thompson and Gonzalez. I think Gonzalez will be the penultimate car to go out. We also have Bartosz Kloss, who will be last to go out onto the track, and the next one, it will be Zachary Fitzwater, who of course got a podium last time out at Fuji Speedway. I'm not expecting Fitzwater to challenge for pole, but who knows really what Kloss can do by the time he gets out on track. It could be crucial for him if he wants to win the championship today, as Zachary Fitzwater will be next on track as Thompson just comes around the first couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then he'll now approach the S's now, then through to the left, then into the right-hander, now then he goes, and now through into the second part of the S's, through the left, and then through into the right-hander will go the Ferrari driver now then, as he makes his way up towards the flat-out left-hander. He will go on the racetrack. Let's see what Thompson's second sector is going to look like now. First sector, I should say, and he's 1/10 down on Gomez in the first sector. It's a very good first sector, in fact, and I think he's roughly around a similar sort of time to what I think he's slightly quicker than Zorbach in the first sector, so could be looking at second here unless he pulls some kind of miracle in these last 2 sectors and finds a purple time somewhere to try and beat Gomez. But anyway, Thompson now just coming around the long swooping right-hander up towards Spoon Curve. 288 kilometers an hour. The Ferrari engine has got some massive grunt in the back of it, as he managed to do 288 in that up towards Spoon Curve there. And now here comes Thompson approaching the end of sector 2. What's his lap time going to look like compared to Gomez? He's 2 tenths down in the middle sector, so he should be comfortably ahead of Zorbach as long as he doesn't screw up this last sector now. Then through into the Casio triangle he goes, through the right, then the left, and then through this long swooping right-hander before making his way back onto the pit straight now. Then Thompson down the pit straight in the Ferrari, across the line he will go. This should put him into second place, and it does. 2 tenths off of Gomez. That's P2 for Thompson. A very, very solid lap there from the Ferrari drivers. Next up on track is Zachary Fitzwater in the Chip Ganassi racing car.
Yeah, Thompson had a really good lap as well with the Ferrari. And now Fitzwater, I expect him to comfortably beat his teammate because of the mistake. So let's see.
Indeed so, as Fitzwater now then is coming up towards the 130 R's, who soon be preparing to start his lap. There'll be 2 cars left to do laps after him. We'll have Ravino Gonzalez in the second of the 2 Ferraris, and then of course we'll have Barches Kloss, who we left to come out. Of course, Kloss has won the last 4 races, of course, in this season, so he'll be looking to see if he can make it 5 in a row, which would be enough for him to win the title. But anyway, Fitzwater now then starts his lap, and as mentioned, next up will be Rubino Gonzalez in the second of the 2 Ferraris as Fitzwater comes around turn number 2 now then in the Chip Ganassi racing car. As mentioned, it hit their last race with Honda Power, of course, before they switched to Mercedes engines in 2022, as Fitzwater comes around the left-hander, and then into the right-hander will go the Australian now then. Probably still a little bit disappointed that Australia got battered by France yesterday in their World Cup match. But anyway, Fitzwater now then just coming around the end of the first sector now then, and he's 7 tenths down in that first sector. So obviously we're not expecting him to challenge for pole, but we'll see where he can end up. He'll be hoping to try and get the Chip Ganassi in the top 10 like he did, I think, last time out of Fuji. I think he qualified in the top 10 if my memory if my memory serves me correctly. But anyway, Fitzwater now then through the long swooping right-hander he goes now then, as the Australian will soon be approaching Spoon Curve now then through the first part, and then into the second part now then he goes, as he will soon be approaching the end of sector 2 now then, very, very soon, heading down the hill towards 130R, as let's see what his second sector is going to look like now then. Approaching 130R, and he's 1.4 seconds down. So I think he's going to slot in around about 9th position, judging from the gap that Hal has got to Mutka. So I think he's going to slot in around about 9th, but whether he can hold on to a top 10 place might be a bit difficult for him. But anyway, Fitzwater around the long swooping right-hander he goes, as Fitzwater now then comes across the line in the Chip Ganassi, and he does slot into 9th place, 1.7 seconds off of Gomez, and just under 3 tenths clear of Simon Mutka. As we now look at Rubino Gonzalez in the Ferrari, probably ecstatic at the moment that Spain are currently winning their World Cup match against Costa Rica. But anyway, he's currently focusing on a lap here in the World Champ Car, as now he comes around 130R, as of course the last driver on track next will of course be Barches Kloss in the Penske car, and he'll be looking to see if he can try and qualify ahead of his teammate Bruno de Barros in this session now then, as he now just comes around the right-hander as Gonzalez is about to start his flying lap here at Suzuka. He starts his lap now then, and as mentioned, Barches Kloss will be the last driver out on track. Gonzalez through into the first couple of corners. He goes now then in the second Ferrari. Through into the right-hander he goes, using the curb on the outside before making his way towards the left, right, and then into the left-hander. He will soon approach now then, as he will soon be coming up towards the end of the first sector very soon. His teammate did a very good lap earlier on to be 2 tenths behind Gomez. Let's see what Gonzalez is able to do in the first sector now then, as Gonzalez approaches the first sector, and he's half a second down in that first sector. So he's 4 tenths off his teammate in sector 1 there. So not the best of first sectors there for Rubino Gonzalez in the Ferrari, as he now makes his way up towards the left-hander now. Then he goes through the left-hander he goes, as he will now soon be coming up towards the long swooping right-hander now then. Through that right-hander he goes, as he will soon be coming up towards Spoon Curve. Let's see what he can do up towards that point. And he did around about 297 kilometers an hour. 87 kilometers an hour at that point. So just 1 kilometer off of what Thompson was able to do on the approach to Spoon Curve there. As Gonzalez now then, let's see what his second sector is going to curtail now then. Up towards sector 2 we go, and he's 1 second off. So this is not a very good lap for Gonzalez, it's fair to say. I think he could maybe just
into like 6th or 7th.
I think he might just slot in front of Zolga, but we'll see. He's going to be roughly around about where Zolga and Volker are, as now Gonzalez just making his way onto the pit straight and across the line will go the Ferrari driver, and he goes into 7th. He actually slots behind Zolga as a result and splits in between Zolga and Volker, so not the best of laps for him, as he's just under a second behind teammate Sam Thompson. It seems to be a bit of a similar trend to some of the teammates in this session, it's fair to say. But anyway, one car left, and that's this man, Bartosz Klos, of course, the man on form in the last 4 races, having won obviously the last 4 races, of course, and thanks to Bruno de Barros' crash at Fuji, has got a very good chance to take the championship off him here at Suzuka. But we'll have to see what his qualifying is able to do. His teammate is going to be on row 3 on the grid, so whether that be 5th or 6th for de Barros, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, he's probably got a bit of a task to try and get Gomez and try and snatch pole off him. But let's see. Klos starts his lap now then. His last World Champ Car qualifying session for now, of course, because we know that he is moving back to the top class next season in 2022 with Haas, and he wants to end his time in World Champ Car with hopefully the title if he can. Now through into the S's now then, we'll go the Polish driver as he now makes his way through into the left-hander and then into the righty will go now then in the Verizon Penske, and now up the hill he goes now then through the long swooping left-hander he goes now then. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Gabriel Gomez now then, up towards sector 1, and he's 3 tenths down in that first sector. He's in fact down on Thompson in the first sector because Thompson was 1/10 down in that first sector. So we'll see what Klos is able to do in the next 2 sectors now then, but it's looking good for Gomez to grab his 3rd consecutive pole at the moment, unless Klos can find a miracle in these last 2 sectors now then, as he just comes around the long swooping right-hander. He will go now then, as he now makes his way towards the end of a Spoon Curve, well, approaching Spoon Curve now. Then Klos just coming around the left-hander he goes, as he will now come down towards the end of the 2nd sector now then. Let's see what Klos's 2nd sector is going to look like compared to Gomez, and he's 6 tenths down in that middle sector, so he could even be where Peter and de Barros are. In fact, he might even slot behind de Barros if he doesn't hock up this last sector very well. But anyway, Klos now then coming around the right-hander he will go on the racetrack, as now Klos across the line. Where is he going to slot his Penske? Across the line he goes, and he goes 3rd. He goes into P3, slots just in front of Zorbach in the end there then. And, well, that's that. It is Gabriel Gomez who is on pole position for the 3rd consecutive race, with Thompson who will start in 2nd place, Bartosz Klos in 3rd, Nicolas Zorbach 4th, Igor Peter is in 5th with Bruno de Barros in 6th, Balint Zolga 7th with Rubino Gonzalez in 8th, Florian Volker 9th with teammate Jordan Howell in 10th, Zachary Fitzwater 11th, Simon Mutka 12th, TJ Papero in 13th, a good qualifying for him, with Joe Petro Kirby 14th, Alex Eric Lucy in 15th, Francesco La Rosa 16th, Bartosz Bracchi in 17th, with Toby Holloway 18th, Thomas Cassidy in 19th, Frederick Soper 20th, Kim Sun Min in 21st, and Yuri Gabriel in 22nd position. If the grid were to remain like that in the race, then Klos would win the title. But we've still got 40 laps coming up. I can confirm it is 40 laps to you, how many laps it is. So, just going to take a brief pause for the moment while Yuri sorts out the grid, because of course he has the mistake rate on for qualifying. So stick with us, guys, because the race will be coming up in just a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm just going to prepare the tweet for Twitter and then also send the criteria over to Yuri. So bear with, guys. We'll be back in just a little bit. Don't go away. I am back, and I have just sent you the criteria, so you'll see that in just a little bit. But yeah, so it's going to be quite an interesting race, I think, as well. Of course, Kloss in third, De Barros in sixth position. If it were to stay like that in the in the race, then Kloss would win the championship before he heads off back to the top class in 2022. Anyway, we'll soon be looking at the criteria on the screen very, very soon. But very good lap for Sam Thompson in the end to get into second place in the Ferrari. It'd be interested to see if what he can do on that front row. Gomez on pole once again for the third consecutive race, and so that's that. So yeah. Hopefully, we could be in for a very good race here at Suzuka. For some information for you about the strategies that we're looking at, of course, the pit windows, providing they work, of course, because in Fuji we did have a little bit of an issue with one of the drivers as a strategy, but luckily it didn't make too much of a difference. Of course, the pit stops we're looking at, of course, it's a 40-lap race here at Suzuka, so for the first round of pit stops, you should expect them around about lap 5 to 10, and then the second one, 10 to 15, I should say. Kind of got a bit ahead of myself there, but lap 10 to 15, and then the second pit stops you should expect around about lap 25 to 30. It is a 40-lap race here at Suzuka, so 40 laps to decide which Penske driver is going to win the title. So, yeah, that's pretty much that, really. But the criteria is up on your screen, as you can see. So whilst we wait for Yuri to sort out the grid, let me quickly go through it. It's very brief, as there's not really much to it. So, for Bruno de Barros to win the title, he can afford to lose 3 points to Barger's Kloss, unless Kloss finishes second. If that's the case, then de Barros can only afford to lose 2 points, because both of them, of course, have 4 wins apiece this season, and both of them have 2 second places this season as well. If Kloss finishes in second, then de Barros needs to make sure that it's only 2 points that he loses out to. So that would mean he'd have to finish third and get the fastest lap of the race, of course, because of course there's now only 26 points left to play with, because you do get a bonus point for the fastest lap of the race, regardless of which position you finish in, of course. As for Barger's Kloss, meanwhile, to win the championship, he needs to outscore de Barros by 4 points, because currently, as we speak, de Barros, if they were level on points, de Barros would win the title on account back of third places. However, if Kloss finishes in second place, then he can afford to outscore de Barros by 3 points, because as mentioned, he can beat him on account back of second places. So they are just the basic criteria. As mentioned, 3 points between the pair of them going into this race. It is going to be very, very tight indeed. And as mentioned, with Kloss in third and de Barros sixth on the grid, if the result were to stay like that for the race, then Kloss would win the title. But as mentioned, we've still got 40 laps in which to decide the championship. Of course, de Barros didn't have the best of qualifying at Fuji last time out, let's not forget, and he was able to climb up into first position before he had that crash in the pit entrance, which gifted Kloss the victory in the end and a chance to try and get him in the Drivers' Championship. So that's obviously something to bear in mind as well. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this. Of course, we crowned a champion yesterday in Formula E, thanks to Michael Moccio in the Mercedes, and of course Audi won the team's title yesterday as well. And now we are going to be crowning a World ChampCar champion today. And then, of course, next week we will be crowning the top class drivers and constructors champions, as well as both Franco Gamba and Amar Khan head into that race level on points. A bit similar to how it was in the real life 2021 season, involving the two same teams as well, Red Bull and Mercedes. So a bit of a coincidence there, if you ask me. But hopefully it doesn't end in the same way as what it did in 2021. It shouldn't do, because obviously there's no safety cars on Grand Prix 4, so we shouldn't have any form of controversy when it comes to Gamba and Car's title showdown
I
in
can
Brazil.
always create controversy if we need to.
Yeah, pretty much. But we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, currently, if anybody wondering about the World Cup, of course, it is half time. Spain winning by 3 goals to nil ahead of Costa Rica. So that's if anybody who wants an update on what's going on in the football. There is obviously another game later on, which is, of course, Belgium versus Canada at 7 p.m. So thought I'd point that out for anybody who's obviously taking an interest in the World Cup. But yeah, now though, of course, we've got to focus on World Champ Car as the stream is now back up on our screen. And we are about to get underway for 40 laps of action. So a recap for anybody who missed qualifying. This is what the grid looks like. It's Gabriel Gomez for the 4th time this season on pole position with Sam Thompson in the Ferrari alongside him in second. Barcius Klaas starts in 3rd. He is in championship winning position at the moment if it were to stay like this. Nicolas Zorbach is in 4th with Igor Peter in 5th. Bruno de Barros with a bit to do in 6th if he wants to win the title. Balint Zolga starts in 7th with Rabino Gonzalez in 8th. The 2 McLarens lock out row 5 with Florian Volker in 9th and Jordan Howell in 10th. Zachary Fitzwater is down in 11th with Simon Mutka in 12th. TJ Bapera, a very good qualifying session for him in the Meyershank in 13th with Joao Pedro Curry making a mistake in the final sector in 14th. Alex Eric Lucien, a disappointing qualifying for Peugeot in 15th with Francesco La Rosa, a good qualifying for him in 16th in the Manor. 17th is the other disappointing Peugeot of Toby Holloway in 17th with Thomas Cassidy in 18th. Frederick Soper is, well, I think he's meant to be 20th, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, because I think it said 20th on the graphic. So, if I'm not mistaken, was he 20th? I think he was 20th, in fact. I think there may have been an error. Yes, he was 20th, so I don't know where the error has come from. In fact, Cassidy's meant to be 19th, so I think it might be Bracky that's the issue. Yeah, it's Bracky. He's meant to be 17th on the grid, not 20th. So just hold up for the moment, guys, and we'll sort out that little grid error for Barcius Bracky there, because he's meant to be 17th, not 20th. So just hold on for the moment, guys.
Yeah, I put that screen back.
Yeah, so we'll do the rest of the grid once everybody once Yuri sorts out that problem. But yeah, it's just that Bracky's in the wrong position. He's meant to be in 17th position, not in 20th. So yeah, that's that. It's just a slight change. It won't take too long, guys. It's only just a little adjustment you need to do, just a change of a few figures really on the performance stats file. It's just a quick change. It won't take too long, so don't you worry about that one. But yeah, that's pretty much that. As just wait for the moment before we can get going with the title decider here, and here at Suzuka, and of course it's probably a little bit feel a little bit retro that the finale is at Suzuka. Of course, if anybody remembers Formula One from the early 2000s.
Definitely not an
the 90s
intentional thing when I made the calendar.
Yeah, yes, indeed. When Suzuka was the finale for F1, so kind of fitting that Suzuka is playing host of a finale here in one of the OC series, is that being World ChampCar. So yeah, that's pretty much that. As I think the second half will be getting underway very soon in that World Cup match between Spain and Costa Rica, but we'll wait and see. But anyway, just hold up a bit, guys, while Shiri changes Bracky's position on the grid, and then we will get going. I think he will also double check to see if the two-stop is working out.
I cannot do that because the game crashed before I made it to that point. Now we are at the weather screen, the grid is correct, and we will begin.
Yes, indeed. On the back row of the grid, of course, was Min and, of course, Gabriel, who are slotted in behind Soper, who's in 20th. But anyway, we are on the grid now then for the final time in 2021.
Yeah,
the fuel load looks to be okay.
The pit stop should work in this.
I
I don't know what's the issue with few of the other tracks.
Anyway, well, either way, 5 lights are on for the final time this season, and we are underway here at Suzuka. Who's going to get the lead into the first corner? It looks like a very good start from the front two. Kloss has also had a very good start as well, as it seems that the top three are going to keep each other honest. Kloss trying to have a look at Thompson, but it's not going to work out. Gomez holds on to the lead going into the first couple of corners now then, and they go on the racetrack now then, and it's not been the best of starts for De Bowers. He's dropped a place at the start. He's down to 7th. He's lost a place to Peter, who's gained a place at the start. Looks like Jordan Howell, I think, has gained a place from Volker, so he's up into 9th. The two McLarens seem to have swapped places from the start, but it is Gomez who leads from Thompson, who's got Kloss all over the back of him. In second place is Kloss, is going to try and go on the inside into the right hand. They're not going to work out. Gonzalez tried to do the same with Zorbach. De Bowers also with Peter, but not going to work out. All going to stay single file, going through into that double right hand. There's a bit of a lock up there for Barches, Bracky and the Viper, but it seems that everybody has kept it clean for the first couple of corners, which is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, clean start, but of course the hairpin is usually the place where things start to happen, but not this time. So these guys are driving very cleanly, something that some other series in the OC has been criticized for, but looks like the ChampCar guys are doing good job keeping it clean.
Yes, indeed. As meanwhile, Gonzalez is all over the back of Zorbach in the fight for 4th position as they're trying to go side by side through into the 130R. Meanwhile, De Bowers is on the inside of Peter in the background. Gonzalez couldn't get the move, but De Bowers could. De Bowers up into 6th place. A fantastic move for De Bowers. He had to get that move done, given that Kloss is up in 3rd, and that's P6 once again for Bruno De Bowers. Fitzwater is also overtaken Volker as well. So up into 10th place goes Fitzwater. He's now into the points playing positions and finds himself in an Arrow McLaren sandwich at this stage. As meanwhile, De Bowers is once again on the move. Look at the speed he's got going down the straight, and that's P5 for Bruno De Bowers. What an opening, what a previous couple of corners there for De Bowers. He is really a man on a charge at the moment.
Yeah, he needs to get the places. He needs to get to Kloss as soon as possible, otherwise it's a game over for him.
Yes, indeed. De Bowers up into 5th position, but at the moment as things stand, Kloss will still win the title as he's up in 3rd position at this stage. But if De Bowers can try and get a move on Zorbach, then it will be level peggings at this point between both Kloss and De Bowers. De Bowers tried to have a go at Zorbach there, but it didn't work out, and now Gonzalez is trying to get back onto him. Kloss can still not find a way through on Sam Thompson as Gomez has opened up the gap to 1.9 seconds. Meanwhile, Zolga is now overtaking Peter. Zolga now up into 7th position. He'll now try and chase down Rubino Gonzalez in front as now they come up towards Spoon Curve now then. And around 295 kilometers an hour there for Barches Kloss as he now just comes out of Spoon Curve there then. As meanwhile we look at what's going on behind. Looks like Gonzalez is still right behind De Bowers at this point in time, as now De Bowers is trying to have a go at Zorbach going into 130R. Can he make it work? You could just see how much power the Honda has got in the back of that Penske, but Zorbach just able to hold on for the time being, unless De Bowers can do something similar to what he did with Gonzalez a little bit early on and try and get him onto the pit straight, but I don't think he's got the traction compared to Zorbach, as Gomez sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 35.937 if he started lap 3 of the race. Meanwhile, Zolga trying to go around the outside of Gonzalez if he can, but can't get it done and has to back out for the time being. Now that as they come out of turn 2, Kloss is still stuck behind Thompson at this stage. Same goes with De Bowers on Zorbach just behind as they make their way through into the S's now then. The Penske's really trying to get a move on at this stage.
Yeah, they are, of course, they are going at it as much as they can, and obviously for Kloss, the higher up they are, the better if Kloss is ahead, because there's the positions where the gap between the positions is only like 1 or 2 points. It's not enough for Kloss, but in the podium places it's definitely enough for Kloss.
The moment as things stand as well, Kloss will win the championship by 2 points. Unless De Bowers can find a way through on Zorbach, then it will be level peggings, which would put De Bowers in a prime position to win the title, because of course Kloss has the same amount of second places as De Bowers, but Kloss has not had a 3rd place this season, whereas De Bowers has had 2. So if De Bowers can get by on Zorbach, then he will be in a championship winning position. Unless Kloss can get by on Thompson here, this might be the move for Kloss this time by, as De Bowers is on the inside of Zorbach at the same time, as Kloss has finally got the move done. Kloss up into 2nd place, and at the same time his teammate De Bowers goes through on Zorbach there. So that would have been a championship winning position for De Bowers if he got the move done on Zorbach, but Kloss has now overtaken Thompson. Thompson. So Kloss is still winning the championship at the moment. As things stand, he will win the championship by 3 points if it were to stay like this. So De Barros has now got to close up onto Thompson if he wants to make it level peggings.
Yeah, it's really exciting, this fight for the championship at the moment, as Zorbach has a horrible first corner.
Because he's lost the place to Gonzalez there. Gonzalez up into 5th place, taking advantage of when De Barros overtook him a little bit earlier on. So Gonzalez now up into 5th position, 3rd and 5th now for the 2 Ferrari drivers. Nearly forgot that Kloss has already overtaken Sam Thompson. As meanwhile, Gomez is still continuing to push on. He's increased the gap to 4.4 seconds between himself and Kloss. So it seems that Gomez has got faster pace compared to Kloss at this stage. Zolga was also trying to have a go at his teammate there, going through into the first part of that double right-hander, but it's not going to work out for him there at this stage. As meanwhile, Gonzalez is still trying to keep up with De Barros at this point in time. As meanwhile, Kloss is now starting to gap Thompson just behind, as they now make their way towards the Spoon curve now then. And now coming around the second part of Spoon we go on the racetrack now then, as he makes his way down the back straight now then. As De Barros, I think, might be closing on to Thompson. We'll see. So far, Thompson finding himself in a Penske sandwich, and De Barros finding himself in the Ferrari side. Meanwhile, looks like Zolga's going to get the move done on Zorbach here. Looks like Zorbach just hasn't got the car set up perfectly for the straights, and Zolga is up into 6th position. He's got the move done on his teammate, and that's P6 for the Hungarian driver.
Yeah, Zorbach's race pace is not looking that good at the moment. He's struggling out there.
Indeed, as meanwhile, Kloss has still got the Ferrari of Thompson behind. The gap 1.1 seconds now between the pair of them. As we look at now, it looks like Peter will be the next one to try and have a go at Nicholas Zorbach in front of him. So meanwhile, unseen by the cameras, Fitzwater was able to get the place off of Howe somewhere on the track. So Fitzwater is now up into 9th position. Only one McLaren driver now is into the points, as both McLarens are now 10th and 11th, with Howe being the one in the points at this stage. As now come around the S's now then on the racetrack, as we ride on board with Soper there, who of course is trying to make up for that disappointing qualifying he had earlier on. As meanwhile, De Barros has got the gap down to 8/10 of a second now between himself and Thompson. Took 2 tenths out of him in that first sector. As meanwhile, Mutka on the inside of Papero there, but not going to work out. He has to tuck back in. I think Kirby was also trying to have a go at Lucien in front, but not going to work out, as Kirby's still currently in a Peugeot sandwich at this point, as De Barros continues to close in on Sam Thompson in front as they make their way through into Spoon Curve. Through the second part we go now then, as meanwhile here comes Mutka. Is he going to get the move done on Papero this time by through the first part? No, he's not. Papero going to hold on for the time being. Honda Power versus Chevy Power going through into that corner there, as now they come out of that second part there. We now look at Barch's Kloss now then, who's well, for a brief point there, because more side-by-sides going on, as Kirby on the inside of Lucien and Mutka on the inside of Papero going into the 130R, but Papero is going to hold on, although Kirby could try and get the move done on Lucien here, but it looks like Lucien's just going to have the edge going into the Casio triangle, and he holds on to 14th for the moment. That puts Kirby into the clutches of both Holloway and Soper. Soper gaining a place unseen by the cameras up into 17th position. As meanwhile, as trying to look in the mirrors to see how close De Barros is to Thompson, and I think he's right behind him. I think De Barros is right behind Thompson, judging from the mirror, and yes, he is. So De Barros now going to try and see if he can attack Thompson for 3rd position. If he can get into that position, then well, I would say he would be in the championship winning position, but he wouldn't be, because Kloss would still win the championship on a countback, even if De Barros got up to 3rd, because Kloss is lying in that 2nd position that we talked about, and well, Kloss would have 3 second places compared to De Barros' 2, given that both of them have had 4 wins this season. So even if De Barros did get by on Sam Thompson, Kloss would still win the championship on a countback of 2nd places if it were to stay like that. So De Barros has actually got to pass Kloss on the road, because it looks like Kloss is not gaining on Gomez. Gomez is continuing to pull away. He's now around 6.3 seconds in front of Kloss now. Last time we checked, it was around about 4 seconds. So Gomez is still flying out in front, but De Barros is still struggling to find a way through on Sam Thompson at the moment. As now we look at Kirby, who's now trying to look onto the inside of Lucien going into Spoon Curve. Can't get the move done. Lucien holds on for the time being, as Soper is trying to put pressure on Holloway in front of him. as we ride on board with the race leader of Gomez. There's it looked like Thompson had to go defensive going into the Casio triangle there as De Barros was trying to pressure him into a bit of an error there as they go down the pit straight now then. De Barros now then not close enough to get a hold of Thompson on that occasion, but he'll look to try and follow him if he can, try and see if he can get him into that double right-hander that we've seen a few overtakes on at this point, as now De Barros making his way through to the S's, through the left and then through into the right-hander we go on the racetrack as Yuri has had to go away for a moment. Meanwhile, Kirby has finally got the move done on Simon Mutka and he's up into 13th position, so hopefully De Barros doesn't overtake Thompson whilst Yuri is away, but luckily the autocam has picked it up either way because De Barros on the inside and he's got the move done. De Barros up into third. Is Gonzalez going to go through? He is indeed. Gonzalez says thank you very much, teammate, I'll take that place. Zolga tries to have a go but can't get the move done, but De Barros is up into third position, and now both the Penske drivers are level peggings in the Drivers' Championship. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gomez currently holds on to the fastest lap of the race, so I think he's holding on to that bonus point at the moment as things stand. But De Barros up into third, and now it's level peggings, but Kloss will still win the championship at the moment thanks to a countback of second places. And yeah, De Barros up into third place. He got the move done at the double right-hander. Thankfully, the autocam picked that up whilst Yuri was away, and he's up into third position. And but still level. Yet Gomez has the fastest laps at the moment. Kloss is still winning the championship on the countback. Meanwhile, Thompson has now been overtaken by Zolga. I just saw it in the background there. Zolga up into fifth position. So in the space of a few corners, Thompson has dropped from third down to sixth.
Yeah, horrible lap for Thompson, losing so many positions there.
Yes, indeed, as we now come down the pit straight, and Zolga looks like he wants to try and close up onto Gonzalez in front as De Barros. He's now starting to get away a bit from that train as he'll now try and close down onto Barcic Kloss, because unless he can get the fastest lap of the race, he needs to pass Kloss on track if he wants to win the championship. The gap is roughly around about 3 seconds between the pair of them. You just saw De Barros there in the background whilst we were viewing Kloss there, and well, we'll see what the gap is like once they approach the end of the first sector now then, as Kloss comes up towards that first sector. Through into the double right-hander we go. It was 2.9 last time around, and it's still roughly around about 2.9, but De Barros gained around about 800 off him in that first sector. Of course, the first sector you don't really gain too much in that first sector, it's fair to say, so we'll wait and see what the last two sectors can tell, but I think it's clear that De Barros is lapping slightly quicker than Kloss at this stage, as it's down to around about 2.9 seconds between the pair of them now. Then as Gomez continues to lead by 8 seconds at the front. Cassidy trying to have a go at Gabriel into the double right-hander there, not going to work out, and has to tuck back as a result now then, as they come out of the second part of that right-hander and up towards the hairpin now then we will go, as now into the hairpin they go now. Meanwhile, Zolga is now on the inside of Rubino Gonzalez. I was talking about he was on the back of him, and he might have an opportunity to get him into 130. Didn't even need to wait when we got to the corner. Got him before the corner, and up into fourth place goes Balint Zolga in the BMW Pyramid Racing car. He's flying at the moment in that car, but does he have the pace to potentially catch up to Bruno De Barros and maybe do his team and maybe do Barcic Kloss a solid favour here?
Yeah, he seems really fast, and let's see, now that he has some clean air, what his actual pace is.
Indeed, so the gap is roughly around about 6 tenths between De Barros and Zolga, so want to keep an eye on there as Min tried to have a go at Cassidy but didn't work out.
He looks faster.
Looks it from the S's. He does look like he's gaining a bit onto De Barros, but I don't think he's close enough to maybe go for a move into that double right-hander, so maybe he'll have to wait for the 130 yards trying to go. Meanwhile, unseen by the cameras, Kirby has got up into 12th place. He's passed DJ Vapero, so now he's just 2 places away from the points as they now go around the double right-hander. I think at the same time, both of them are still gaining onto Barcic Kloss. Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out what the gap is like between De Barros and Kloss at this stage of the race, because the last time we checked, it was around about 2.9 seconds. I mean, last time around we checked, De Barros was able to gain a little bit in the first sector compared to Kloss. Meanwhile, Mutka on the inside of Vapero, but can't get the move done and has to hold back for the time being as the trainer cars continue to form behind the Meyer Shank racing car of Papero, as the gap is 2.5 seconds between De Barros and Kloss, so he has gained a bit from the last time we have checked on those two. So 2.5 seconds is the gap between the two Penske drivers at this stage. But De Barros may need to look at his mirrors because he has got a hungry Balint Zolga right behind him. Balint tried to have a go at him into the 130R there, but it didn't quite work out, so he has to hang back for the time being. I wonder if he's going to have enough traction, perhaps, to try and get him onto the pit straight. We have seen a few overtakes in this race come down on the pit straight, so we'll see. As we're on lap 10 of the race, so we're at the first round of pit stops window now. So we're at the first pit stop window of this race. Lap 10 to 15 is when we should see the first round of stops happening in this race. As now we look at Cassidy now, then he's trying to look onto the inside of the Viper here, this is a Yuri Gabriel, but he can't get the move done and has to hang back for the moment. 9.7 seconds now, the gap between Gomez and Kloss in this race now then.
Gomez is absolutely flying.
Yep, Gomez completely flying in this race, of course. He has got one win to his name this season, of course. Let's not forget, he got it at Spa-Francorchamps. He'd love to get a second win before the season comes to an end. Zolga trying to have a go at the bounce into the double right-hander, but not going to work out. He's going to hang back for the time being. I don't think anybody in the top 4 is pitting just yet, if I'm not mistaken. So, oh no, I'm wrong. Kloss is coming in this lap. So Barci's Kloss, who was on a light fuel load, is coming into the pits. And given that De Barros and Zolga were lapping quicker than him, despite the fact that Kloss was on a light fuel load, that's a bit interesting there, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, he needs to hope that he gains lots of time with the undercut, because otherwise, if he's going to have all their tires and pace like that, then things won't look good for him, as there's some contact between Prix and Chopa, the two.
I think that how that was caused was there was actually a lock up in front from TJ Papera, and I think it's actually backed everybody up, and it's caused that contact to happen there. Mutka trying to take advantage, but not going to work out. Meanwhile, unseen by the cameras, Kirby is past Volker on the track, so Kirby is up into 11th. Meanwhile, into the pits comes both Rubino Gonzalez and Barci's Kloss. So Kloss is into the pits. De Barros and Zolga get up to 2nd and 3rd temporarily, but of course, they still need to make their pit stops, of course, as Kloss comes in for his first of 2 scheduled stops. And how much fuel is he taking in, just to clarify? Yep, it will be a 2-stop, so thankfully no issues there, that's for sure, like we saw at Fuji last time out with Barci's Kloss's car. As Peter is also into the pits for Andretti. Luckily for Kloss, he doesn't get held up by any traffic. I did fear for a moment that Kloss could have got held up by a bit of traffic there in the pits, but thankfully there was enough of a gap for him to not get held up.
Gaggle of cars.
And Kloss is going to rejoin in 9th position.
He was important.
Important indeed. He gets out in front of that gaggle of cars that have all been stuck behind Papero for a very, very long time, but Gonzalez hasn't. He rejoins in 13th. He's right in the middle of that gaggle of cars. That was Fitzwater, I think, has just made a pit stop as well. So a lot of cars actually coming into the pits lap time, and Bruno De Barros in the Penske is coming into the pits this lap, and so is Gabriel Gomez, but Balint Zolga isn't. He's going to stay out for an extra lap. So maybe Zolga's looking to try and see if he can jump De Barros in the pits.
Yeah, but looking at their pace, I think, that could have ended really badly. But looking at their pace, it looks like the tire wear seems to be decently high. So I think that strategy is for those that pit later, that they attack with the first tires, as Zolga does the move easily.
Got up into 2nd place. He didn't even need to wait for De Barros to come into the pits. Probably didn't want to get held up by him once he came in. But Gomez is in, and so will De Barros. So De Barros will try and see if he can get Zolga back after the pit stop. But that could be crucial for Kloss's championship. Yeah,
that's important. I think De Barros will jump back at him, and Gomez gets held up by De Barros.
Only slightly though. Only slightly. I think it might have been.
Doesn't matter considering his gap is 10 years to the rest of the cars.
I think there may have been a bit of confusion there with Gomez. Probably forgot that De Barros is actually the first garage in the pit lane. A 10.9 second stop, a very long stop there for Bruno De Barros. Is he planning to go quite long in this stint? 30. I wonder. 30 laps. What? 30 laps?
No, he's going to lap 30.
He's going to lap 30. So, okay. So, going towards the end of it. Kloss is still in front of De Barros. Meanwhile, I think he's just overtaken Volker there. So Kloss still able to rejoin in front of De Barros, but we need to keep an eye on what Zolga's doing at the moment, and he's pitting along with Sam Thompson behind. So Zolga leaving it for an extra lap, but he's coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Will he stay out in front of De Barros, or will the extra lap on fresher tyres for De Barros be enough for him to get back ahead of the Hungarian?
Considering he just overtook him, I think De Barros should, unless he gets held up, of course, I think De Barros should have the pace to overtake him again.
Should, keyword should there. That's the important thing there. As a few more cars are also pitting this lap. I think I saw Alex Eric lose. Oh, got fire! We got a fire for Francesco La Rosa. His engine has blown up massively. And, well, he was in front of a Chip Ganassi racing car there. So I wonder if Chip Ganassi may be a little bit worried with that partnership with Mercedes, but we've got a fire out the back of Francesco La Rosa's manor, and he's going to become the first retirement of the day. And he's going to pull off right where Carlos Sainz had his crash in real life, and Francesco La Rosa is out of the race. First time of the day, as Balint Zolga in the BMW Pyramid Racing car has just come into the pits. La Rosa is out, and he is the first retirement of the day. But let's see, there is somebody coming into the pits this lap as Yellas are out for La Rosa's car, as Thompson is into the pits, so Zolga shouldn't get held up, and he's not getting held up. A 9.1 second stop from the BMW Pyramid Racing mechanic. Gomez is expected goes through. There's Klaus, and there's De Barros in the background, and Zolga is...
He got held up by Volker.
As De Barros is going to go steaming past Volker there, but Zolga has still come out in front of De Barros. But look at this. He's not far behind Klaus, who's getting held up by the other McLaren, I think that is, of Jordan Howe. It is. So the Penske is having troubles with McLaren.
Yeah, now... This is an opportunity for Zolga, not to win, but to get the second place out here, because, yeah, the McLarens are being a pain in the ass for the Penskes.
Indeed, and Kloss couldn't find a way through on Howell on that occasion, and now he's got Zolga all over the back and could give De Barros a favour. And look, De Barros is not far behind these two either, so the more that Howell holds these two up, the more that De Barros can get onto the back of these guys as well.
Yeah, it's... this is possibly swinging the title back to the Barros's way. And
indeed, look at this, as Kloss is actually trying to go on the inside of Howell, but Howell's saying no to that. Zolga trying to go round the outside of Kloss. Can he pull the move off? He's still side by side with him, but Kloss is going to hold on for the time being. The Barros getting closer to the pair of them. As a result, Kloss now going to the inside of Jordan Howell. Can he finally get the move done on the McLaren now? Then Zolga just watching on to see if anything happens. Kloss on the inside. Can he get it done? They go still side by side, going down towards the Casio triangle. It's not going to work out, and he's going to have to hang back for the time being. Once again, still stuck behind the McLaren, and De Barros is now not far behind them.
Yeah, now this race is really delivering in terms of entertainment value.
Indeed, Kloss is getting close to the back of Howell. Can he get for him down into the first corner? No, he can't. Howell is still being a pain as the other McLaren of Flowing and Volker has just come into the pits. But Howell is holding up this train of cars which consists of both of the championship contenders. As now they come around the S's now. Then Kloss doing everything he can to get by on Howell. But he's got both Zolga and De Barros breathing down his neck through into the S's now. Then will Kloss try and get him into the double right-hander this time by? He tried it earlier on but couldn't get the move stick. Can Kloss get the move done this time by? His De Barros is trying to have a go. And Zolga couldn't make it work. Kloss on the inside of Howell. Can he get it done? No, he can't. Howell once again in front of them. I wonder when Howell is pitting, of course. That's what I want to know. He's pitting this lap. So Kloss is going to finally be released. But, of course, the thing with that pit lane entrance is it does slow the pack down behind. So Zolga and De Barros could take full advantage of it.
Yeah, and this is the most TV time Howell has had the entire season.
Look at Zolga, meanwhile, trying to get at Kloss, but can't get it done. Zolga, once again, having to hang back. Howell again, defending going into Spoon Curve. He doesn't care if he's not in this fight. He wants to prove that he can hold his own, even on holder tyres. And now he comes down the back straight. Kloss again, trying to look to the inside. Can he finally get the move done on Howell? He's also got Zolga trying to get alongside him, going down towards the 130 arc. Can Zolga try and hang it around the outside? No, they can't. Once again, Kloss can't get by on Howell. De Barros trying to have a go at Zolga, but can't get it done. Through into the Casio chicane we go, through the right, then into the left. Howell will duck into the pits. He's going to hold these guys up, and he does hold them up.
That's bad for Kloss.
He could be vulnerable here. Zolga's now trying to go into the inside of Zorbach. His teammates into the pits. Look at De Barros meanwhile trying to look back behind. Zolga on the inside of Kloss. Has he got the move done? The answer to that is yes. De Barros tries to go on the inside. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. Kloss holds on for the moment, but Zolga has got through, and that is a championship winning position for De Barros because they're both level, but because Kloss is not in second place, if it were to stay like this, De Barros would win the title.
Yeah, really intense stuff here, and things are starting to look a little bit grim for Kloss, especially since De Barros looks fast, and now the two Penskes are going to fight.
tried to have a go into that double right-hander, didn't work out, but he doesn't need to pass him, of course, because as mentioned, unless Kloss gets the fastest lap at some point, if it were to stay like this, De Baus would win the title on a countback of third places. So coming around the hairpin, De Baus will still try and see if he can get Kloss, but it looks like Zolga is now starting to get away from the pair of them as the two Ferraris look like they're going to be into combat very, very soon, as Gonzalez is actually ahead of Thompson. So I think Gonzalez was actually able to get the jump on Thompson in the pits, so he's got up into 5th position. But we now look at the two Penske's meanwhile, as De Baus tries to put his teammate under a bit of pressure. He's not close enough on this occasion to get him now, then, to come down towards the 130R now then, as De Baus tries everything he can to close back up onto Bartjes Kloss, and now through into the 130R we go. Can he get it? Can he break that a little bit later? Going into the Casio triangle now then, as they go through the right and left-hander now then. Now through into the right we go. De Baus not close enough to get Kloss on that occasion, but could be close enough to him on the double right-hander if he carries the momentum through into the S's. We're soon coming up towards, and now coming down towards the first couple of corners go the two Penske drivers now then. Through turn 2 we go now then, as De Baus tries everything he can to put pressure on Bartjes Kloss. Through to the left, through into the right we go, and then through the left-hander we will go on the racetrack now then, as now coming up the hill towards the left-hander goes Zolga, who is still pulling away from the two Penske drivers, and I don't think De Baus is close enough on that occasion to get a hold of Kloss, so I think they're going to remain in their positions for the time being, as Gomez still with a very comfortable lead out in front at this stage. As
I just
he
noticed
continues.
that Zolga is way faster than Gomez.
Oh, interesting. So Zolga's got some very good pace to Gomez, but he's still got a very big gap to claw, of course, as we've now passed the first pit stop window, by the way. So the second pit stops will come between lap 25 and 30, if anybody wondering, as trying to keep an eye on what De Baus is doing with Kloss at the moment, because he was quite close behind him going into Spoon Curve. As meanwhile, Soper tries to get by on Bracky there, but it's not going to work out, as meanwhile, De Baus not close enough, surprisingly. I thought he'd be a little bit closer to Kloss on that occasion, but clearly not. But he is still definitely closing in on the Polish driver, as Kloss actually feeling the pressure a little bit from De Baus as they go through into the Casio chicane. If De Baus can get by Kloss, it will make things a little bit more comfortable for him in the championship. He's already in a championship winning position, is De Baus, but getting ahead of Kloss would make things a lot more comfortable for him, especially if anything happens to both Zolga and Gomez in front. As now, coming around the first couple of corners, we go on the racetrack now then, as De Baus tries everything he can to put Kloss under any pressure he can. Through into the S's we go, through the right, and then into the left-hander we go, as De Baus does everything he can to put his teammate under so much pressure now then. Through the right-hander we go, and then up towards left-hander. I don't think De Baus is close enough again on that occasion, so I think he's just going to hang back for the time being, as we're trying to look at the gap between Zolga and Gomez, but it's not giving us it. It's only showing Zolga pulling away more from Kloss. He's actually got it up to 3.4 seconds between himself and Kloss. That's a weird camera angle there for the Chip Ganassi car there. I think that might be one of the camera settings for this car. But anyway, let's ignore that for the time being, as we get a very interesting cockpit view there for Fitzwater. As that's a little bit better there, as he's currently lying in, I think, around about 7th place, if I'm not mistaken. So doing a good job considering the qualifying effort that we saw a little bit earlier on. But anyway, as we now look at Gomez, who's just coming out of the Casio triangle. Meanwhile, Min trying again on Yuri Gabriel, but not going to work out. These two are currently still yet to score points this season, and same for Howell, who's currently outside the points at the moment. So both McLarens now find themselves outside the points in both 11th and 12th positions, as the Penskes are still pretty close together. You can just see in the background, De Baus is still trying to keep Kloss honest at the moment. They've also got the two Ferraris not far behind in the background, as we continue to ride on board with Gabriel Gomez, as we look at Kim Sung-min, who's still trying his best to attack Yuri Gabriel in the fight to stay out of last position, because of course Francesco La Rosa is the only retirement in this race. But now we turn our attention back to the two championship contenders, Bartjes Kloss and Bruno De Baus. Up the hill we go now then. De Baus again not close enough to get a hold of Kloss at this stage, but if you can keep him honest up until the second round of pit stops, De Baus could have a chance to try and jump Kloss in the pit stop stages, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. As now we look, now this is Zorbach on the back of Fitzwater meanwhile, and he's also got Peter behind, who's not having the best of races in the Andretti. Zorbach couldn't get the move done, and now he's under pressure from Igor Peters Andretti, and not too far behind is Joao Pedro Kirby, who's having a very good race after only qualifying 14th on the grid in this race. The gap 9.7 seconds meanwhile between Gomez and Zolga, for anybody curious about the top two. But as we just see Mutka trying to have a go at Papera there through into the double right-hander, but it's not going to quite work out there as they now make their way up towards the hairpin now then. Through into the left-hander we go as they now come towards the game. DeBounce ahead! DeBounce has got by on Kloss! DeBounce has got the move done up into third place! And well, things are now a little bit more comfortable to DeBounce. He got him at 130R and DeBounce is onto the podium!
That's a big blow for Kloss, and now the Barros looks pretty comfortable for the title now, since Kloss doesn't seem to have the pace to match.
This stage, of course, let's not forget, we still have a second round of pit stop to go through, and I'm not sure who's going to pit first out of the Barros and Kloss, or maybe at the same time. I think we know that the Barros is actually going quite later into the race. He's actually going to the lap 30, to around the lap 30 mark, maybe even before then. But yeah, he's going quite later in this second stint. So Kloss should have a little bit less fuel. But even in the first stint of the race, Yuri, it just seemed like even with light fuel, Kloss just didn't seem to have the pace compared to the Barros.
Yeah, and the Barros has been flying past the other cars until he got to Kloss, and his pace is good, and Kloss's pace is less good. So yeah, it seems like it's slipping away.
At the moment it seems, yeah, but we've still got roughly around 21 and a bit laps to go, so anything can still happen at this point in time. As Holloway's out of the race. That's another engine blow up. The Peugeot of Toby Holloway, his engine is given up, and that's the second mechanical failure of the race there, as Gabriel and Min negotiate around him. But Toby Holloway is out of the race, and that's not the way he wanted his season to end.
Yeah, this seems like a typical thing for a French car to do.
Well, if you've seen what happened with Renault in the top class, then I think you might be onto something. But anyway, it is an engine failure, just a simple engine failure from Toby Holloway there, and we are down to 20 runners as a result, as his car now gets hoisted over the barriers. As looks like Fitzwater is still trying to defend off from Nicholas Zorbach just behind, but the yellows have now been lifted. They've now been able to clear Toby Holloway's car, and that's pretty much that, really. As we now look at Gabriel Gomez, who's just going around the left-hander, as we're now at the halfway point of the race now. Then we're on lap 20 of 40 here at Suzuka. 20, including this lap, 21 laps left of the 2021 World ChampCar season. As Zolga, we were talking about he may have been quicker than Gomez a little bit earlier on, but is he still gaining onto him? I'm not sure. It's still quite a big gap regardless, though, as Zolga just makes his way around the hairpin now then in the BMW Pyramid, and now going around the long swooping right-hander, he will go now then as he makes his way down towards the spoon curve now then, as we continue to ride on board with Gabriel Gomez now. And he's actually coming up towards the end of Sector 2. Last time we checked, it was around about 9.7 seconds a gap between Gomez and Zolga. It was actually down to 8.3 last time around, so Zolga is still gaining, but I think he is still going to need a bit of an ass, Yuri.
Yeah, he needs to gain quite fast if he wants to have even a chance, because overtaking when you don't have a big pace advantage is quite difficult in this track. Not impossible, but a little bit difficult.
Yes, indeed, as Yuri Gabriel is still trying to fend off from Kim Sung-min at this stage. It's down to 7.8 seconds now, the gap between Gomez and Zolga. So Zolga is still lapping quicker than Gomez at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what the gap is like when we get to the second round of pit stops at this stage. But meanwhile, we're looking at this is Frederick Soper, who's all over the back still of the Viper of Bartosz Bracki, as they now make their way down towards the 130R, but he can't seem to get the move done going through into there as he still is stuck behind him at this point in time as we continue to look at Gabriel Gomez, who's still continuing to lead the way at this point now then as they make the way towards Spoon Curve now then, up towards the double left-hander we go, as meanwhile Spain have just scored a 5th goal meanwhile. They did go 4-0 up a little bit earlier on, which I forgot to mention, but they're now 5-0 up against Costa Rica, for anybody wondering, as Zorbach was trying to have a go there at Fitzwater, but again, just like we've seen on previous laps, Fitzwater doing a good job fending off both Zorbach and Peter, and also it seems Joe Pedro Kirby, because he's only 7 tenths behind Igor Peter, so he's out managed to get himself behind that train that's being held up by his teammates. So both Zorbach and Peter essentially currently in a Chip Ganassi sandwich at this point. As we now look at Soper, is he going to get the move done this time on Bracky? Bracky goes a tad bit wide going into the first part, but it doesn't work out, and they've now brought Thomas Cassidy into that fight for 16th position, as Soper just struggling today, it seems. Obviously, we talked about how he had a tricky qualifying session a little bit earlier on, only managing 20th on the grid, but it seems like it's continuing a bit here, as now Soper doing everything he can to get by on Bracky, but can't get the move done. We now look at Zolga, who's just making his way around the right and then into the left-hander now. Then he will go as now let's see if Soper can get the move done on Bracky on this occasion as they make their way towards the 130R. Is Soper going to get the move done this time by? They're still going to remain side by side going into the Casio triangle as he's still trying to hang it around the outside, but it's not going to work out. He has to tuck back, and Cassidy could try and take advantage in the Meyer Shank racing car if he can now then, as we ride back on board with Gabriel Gomez in the Andretti Autosport car. As now look at this, Zorbach trying again on Fitzwater. Can he get the move done this time by? No, he can't get the move done, and once again Peter and Kirby are right behind the pair of them at this point as they come out of the second part and go underneath the crossover section of the racetrack now then. Still trying to see what the gap is like between Zolga and Gomez. Meanwhile, last time we checked, it was around about 7.8 seconds as well. Owl there nearly making a bit of an error there and nearly losing the back end. Thankfully, he was able to keep the car in check. But at this stage here, it looks like he's not going to score any points this season.
Yeah, and I think, considering he's driving the McLaren, I think that's a little bit embarrassing stat.
Indeed so, as 6.7 seconds now, the gap between Gomez and Zolga. So I think if he can keep this up, it could be around about 4 or 5 seconds by the time we get to the second round of stops. As meanwhile, Zorbach on the inside well, he was on the inside of Fitzwater, but whilst that was going on, Fitzwater's teammate Kirby has just got by on Peter there and has got up into 9th place. That's a good move there from Joe Pedro Kirby, as now Fitzwater will try and do him a favour and try and get him to pass Zorbach if he can. But yeah, Peter's just not having the best of races so far.
Yeah, considering where his teammate is, he should be much higher up the grid than this.
Meanwhile, Zolga took another 3 tenths out of Gomez in the first sector. The gap now down to 6.3 seconds between the pair of them. The gap roughly still around 1.8 seconds between the Penske's. So I think both Kloss and DeBows are now starting to lap around about similar sort of pace between each other. Both still keeping each other quite honest, as once again, Min having trouble getting by on Yuri Gabriel there. And as they are battling to try and stay out of last position, as they make their way onto the pit straight, as they're going to start their lap 23 of the race, as Min is still currently stuck behind Yuri Gabriel. These two look like they're not going to score points this season, as they're currently way down at the back of the field. Riding on board with Bruno de Barros, meanwhile, in 3rd position, as he's now coming up towards the 130R. The gap now 6 seconds between Gomez and Zolga. So once again, Zolga taking another 3 tenths out of Gabriel Gomez's lead. As now we look at Soper, who's trying to have a go at Bracky, but can't get the move done once again. The 2 Polish drivers still into combat, and they've still got Cassidy breathing down their neck in case anything happens to the pair of them. As Min again also trying to go for the move into that right-hander, but couldn't make it work on Gabriel that time by, as they go underneath the crossover section of the Suzuka circuit, as they now make their way towards the hairpin, through into the left-hander he will now go. And so now coming around the long swooping right-handers, we will go on the racetrack as Minnie's going to try and see if he can get the move done on Yuri Gabriel now then, but can't get the move done. So gap's now 5.7 seconds. Whoa, a lock up there for Pepero. Now, was there contact with Mutka there or not, or was that just a simple lock up from Pepero? But either way, I think that Mutka is up into 30. Was that for position? I'm not sure. I'm sure the graphic will tell us in a little bit if it was for position or not. Once it switches over to... no, it wasn't, in fact. It might have just been a simple lockup for Pepero, or maybe he tapped the back of Mutka there. I'm not sure. But either way, Lucian wasn't able to take full advantage of that and still remains behind the pair of them at this stage. Meanwhile, we go back to the battle for 8th between Zollback, Kirby and Peter. Fitzwater's got a bit of a gap to him and Zollback at the moment as they now come towards the hairpin, as Howley's actually not too far behind this lot. So how, if he can keep pushing, he could try and get himself a chance of trying to get at least a point this season, as Zollback now then just making his way towards Spoon Curve, as we're now into the second pit stop window of the race. We're on lap 25 and we're now at the second round of pit stop window. 25 to 30 is when the second stops happening. Meanwhile, Zollback trying to get back onto Fitzwater if he can, going into the 130R. Can the German driver finally get the move done? No, he can't. Fitzwater once again holding on to that position. Kirby not able to take full advantage. Zollback, though, trying to... Well, I thought he was defending, but in actual fact, I think he was actually defending from Kirby, who was actually not too far behind him as they make their way around the right-hander. Gomez is not pitting just yet. He's going to stay out for a little bit longer, as the gap is now down to 5 seconds between himself and Zolga. So, that might be something to potentially keep an eye on after the second round of pit stops, Yuri.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that Zolga can win this.
Potentially, it all really depends on his pace, really, after the second round of pit stops, really. As meanwhile, De Barros is now up the gap between himself and Kloss to 3 seconds. So he's now starting to pull away now from his Polish teammate. As now, meanwhile, Min trying to get onto the inside of Gabriel. Not going to work out. Min is going to have to hang back for the time being. As meanwhile, Zollback, can he finally get the move done on Fitzwater this time? By the answer to that is no. Once again, can't get the move done, and once again in the clutches of Fitzwater's teammate Kirby as they come underneath the crossover section, as Soper has finally got the move done on Bracky, unseen by the cameras. He's been stuck behind him for quite a while, and Soper is now finally up into 16th position. Meanwhile, Gomez is going to start lap 26 of the race. Is he going to be pitting next time by as he now crosses the line in the Andretti? And the answer to that is no, he's not. He's going to stay out for a little bit more. But there's Zolga in the background, look. It was 4.7 last time by, and Zolga's coming in at the end of this lap. So he's looking to see if he could try and gain during the pit stop stages. He's going to be pitting before Gomez. So going to be interested to see if he can make that one work out.
This is interesting. He is going to pit before Gomez, and Gomez is likely to have the lapped cars during Zolga's outlap.
Potentially, meanwhile, Bartosz Kloss in the Penske has just come into the pits for his second and final stop of the season, and his final one in World Champ Car for now, because of course he's going back to the top class next season with Haas. A 9.4 second stop from the Penske mechanics. Let's see where Kloss is going to rejoin then after this pit stop now then. As Peter is also into the pits for Andretti, as Kloss is going to rejoin in 9th position and just in front of Jordan Howell there. That might have been quite crucial there for Kloss if he wanted to gain back onto Bruno De Barros in front of him. As meanwhile, Peter has just finished his pit stop. TJ Papero and also Alex-Eric Lucian have come into the pits. There's actually a few cars coming in at the end of this lap, and one of them, of course, is also Balint Zolga in the BMW Pyramid. As we're going to be staying with him now, as he'll be coming into the pits at the end of this lap now. Then as he makes his way down towards 130R, he's not that far away from Gabriel Gomez, as you've just seen there. As now Zolga just coming down towards the Casio triangle now then, and we'll see him peel to the right very, very soon. And he's coming into the pits now then. So into the pits comes Balint Zolga in the BMW Pyramid racing car. And it'll be interesting to see if he can make the strategy work to try and see if he can close up onto Gabriel Gomez by the end of the race. And he peels in to his box now then to put on a fresh set of tyres and fuel, which will get him to the end of the race. So let's see how quick the stop is going to be for the Hungarian driver, as the mechanics Still filling him up. An 8.9 second stop. So that is slightly quicker than Barcia's Kloss's pit stop that we saw earlier on. De Barros goes up into second place. Of course, we're expecting him to pit quite later on in this window. As in fact, he's pitting this lap, in fact. De Barros is actually getting out of the way this lap. He's pitting on lap 27. As Zolga, crucially, gets out in front of both the Ferraris there of Gonzalez and Thompson, who have been fighting for quite a while. So have this lot, in fact. And Kloss is actually coming up behind this lot. So Kloss doesn't want to get held up by these guys for too long, especially when De Barros is pitting at the end of this lap.
Yeah, but I think the game is over.
We will see, of course. Meanwhile, Jordan Howell in the McLaren is just coming into the pits as he's looking to try and see if he can get a point out of this race. Thompson's still trying to keep his teammate Gonzalez honest at the moment, but not close enough at this stage to make the move. As now coming around the S's now, then we go. Fitzwater is coming in at the end of this lap, so he is actually going to hold up Kloss, I think, because, of course, he'll back everybody up in the pits, unless Zorbach can get by him here into the double right-hander, but again, can't get it done, and Kloss gets held up a bit. As a result of that, he is not going to be happy with these... He's not going to be happy with these guys in front as he's struggling to get by on Joao Pedro Kirby at the moment as they make their way towards the hairpin. And so now, as they come around the long swooping right-hander, Zorbach still trying to find a way through on Fitzwater if he can. Zorbach trying to go onto the inside into Spoon Curve. Can he get the move done? And the answer to that is no. As pretty soon we'll be seeing Bruno De Barros head into the pits, and he is now. So De Barros is into the pits. Meanwhile, Thompson, can he get the move done on his teammate Gonzalez going through into the Casio Triangle? No, he can't. Gonzalez just holds on for the moment. Zolga will reclaim second place as now Bruno De Barros is in for his second and final stop of the season. Is this going to be enough for him to win the championship today? De Barros with a fresh set of tyres and fuel now then in the Team Penske. How quick is the stop going to be? 8.6 seconds. That's a much quicker stop than what Kloss had. 8/10 the difference in the end there then. And he should comfortably still come out in front of Kloss, who is going to get held up by that traffic because Fitzwater is coming into the pits this lap. And they have been held up. De Barros is ahead of that traffic, which Kloss is stuck behind because Kloss is right there. So De Barros is still ahead of Kloss as Kirby gets the move done on Zorbach, pretty much taking advantage of Fitzwater coming into the pits, and Kirby gets up to 6th. And now Kloss needs to get through on this traffic if he wants to try and catch up onto De Barros at this point in time. But I think it's going to be a bit too much of an ask for the Polish driver at the moment if he wants to win the championship.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening.
Unless something happens to De Barros, of course. Meanwhile, Kloss now then trying to have a go at Zorbach. Is he going to get the move done into the double right-hander? The answer to that is no. Once again, getting held up by the BMW Pyramid driver, who had only just been overtaken by Joao Pedro Kirby, as they now make their way up towards the hairpin now then. As they now come around here, the left-hander, as both Fitzwater and Volker have both completed their pit stops, as more cars are coming in, as Gomez is coming into the pits at the end of this lap. And look how much Zolga took out of him in that sector. It was around about 23 seconds earlier on. It's now down to 21 seconds between the pair of them, as Gomez is obviously coming into the pits this lap. I think it could be quite close here. Yeah? Maybe Zolga could actually jump Gomez here.
I think Gomez was held up by the lap car who pitted. And look at the gap, only 20.3.
Yeah, but so I would imagine Zolga will actually get ahead of Gomez after the pit stop, as Sam Thompson in the Ferrari has just come into the pits looking to see if he can jump his teammate Gonzalez. Yeah, I would imagine Zolga is going to take the lead once Gomez comes into the pits. But the question is, will Gomez have enough pace to catch him back up?
Yeah, I don't know, because Zolga's pace has been amazing.
Yeah, indeed. He's been quite good in this race as Balint Zolga. And just trying to get a recap of where he actually qualified down in 7th place, did Balint Zolga. So if he can win the race, that's been a pretty good it'll be a pretty good drive for the Hungarian driver, regardless if he wins or finishes second, of course.
19.1.
19.1. So yeah, Zolga, I think he's definitely going to jump Gomez in the pits. But again, the question will be if whether or not Gomez can catch him back up and try and get his second win of the season. Thompson rejoined in 8th in front of Fitzwater, who's actually in front of Peter, meanwhile, of course, as he actually obviously has finished his pit stop. I think Peter obviously made his pit stop early on, so Fitzwater was still able to rejoin in front of Peter. But anyway, Gabriel Gomez is into the pits for Andretti Autosport, as there are a few more mechanics actually coming into the pits, including the BMW Pyramid mechanics for Nicholas Zorbach. So Zorbach will be coming in this lap. 7.8 seconds, the pit stop for Gomez. Just look on the left-hand side. There he goes. Zolga's gone through. Balint Zolga now takes the lead of the race here at Suzuka with 11 laps to go. But the question is, can Gomez catch him back up before the end of the race? He rejoins in second place, and now the chase is on for Gabriel Gomez.
The chase is on, and look at the gap that Zolga's got.
Yeah, quite a comfortable gap indeed, but still 11 laps. It is still possible for Gomez to try and catch back up. Gonzalez, meanwhile, is into the pits for Ferrari. Same with Kirby, same with Zorbach. A few cars have come in. Kloss is now finally released from that traffic he's stuck in, but he's lost a heck of a lot of time to Dabao as a result, as Thompson has got the jump on Gonzalez in the pits. So him pitting early did work out, and Thompson has got the jump on Gonzalez at last.
Yep.
There's a few more cars that finished their pit stops there. Kirby, I think, has just rejoined in front of Zorbach. And, yeah, so Kirby stays in front after he overtook him earlier on. But Howell is in ninth. Has he pitted? I think he has, hasn't he, if I'm not mistaken. Howell has pitted, so he's officially into the points. He's actually jumped both Kirby and Zorbach. Both of them have had a terrible stint fighting with each other and also having Kloss right behind them. And it's allowed Peter to also get in front of the pair of them as well. Hence why Peter is all over the back of Fitzwater at the moment. But Howell is up into ninth place. Could this be the day in the final race that he finally gets points in World Champ Car?
It will be interesting to see. I think Kirby and Zorbach will both be faster. But I mean, Howell desperately needs these points.
There we go. I think I'm now back. My Discord decided to have a little bit of a moment on me there. Apologies for that, Yuri. Yeah, my Discord decided to have a little bit of a moment on me there. But anyway, that's the second round of pit stops done with, and that's pit stops done for World Champ Car this season. As we now look at Joe Pedro Kirby, who's trying to gain onto, I think that's Jordan Howell he's trying to gain on. So you were right earlier on, Yuri. It does appear that Jordan Howell is going to have to defend a little bit if he wants to get some points in this race.
Yeah, he needs to defend a lot, but I think is his pace gap to the others too much that he can't hold on? Okay, Kirby is already making the move here.
Meanwhile,
that was way too easy.
Yeah, that was Kirby up into ninth place, and I was as I was just about to say that as Kirby goes through into ninth, it's now 7-0 with Spain. Now I've actually missed the sixth goal there, so Spain are now 7-0 ahead of Costa Rica. It looks like it's going to be the biggest scorer in the World Cup so far. So yeah, 7-0 to Spain for anybody wondering. Meanwhile, the gap between the top two is now 5 seconds. Gomez is gaining onto to Zolga, so I think the chase is definitely on here, Yuri.
Yeah, 8/10 is what Zolga lost out there, and Gomez is almost making the new fastest lap of the race here. Almost.
Indeed, as Gomez now then is trying everything he can to gain. As Zolga he's gained 8/10 there. He's got Min in front, and he'll also have to contend with Thomas Cassidy in front as well. Zolga having trouble with the traffic because it looks like he's going to finally get through on Min here, and he does. So he's finally lapped one car, but he's now got another car to deal with, and it's going to be a bit of it's going to require a lot for Zolga if he wants to get his first win of the season. Otherwise, this man is going to be all over the back of him trying to get his second win of the season now then, as he makes his way towards the double hander. It's now down to around 4.4 seconds, I think. If I'm not mistaken, or around 4.2. 4.3, so it was actually in the middle of what I was thinking there. So 4.3 now, the gap between Gomez and Zolga. Just shows how much Zolga's losing in the traffic there, as they now come out of the hairpin now then. Zolga is now coming up to try and lap Thomas Cassidy in front, as they now make their way towards Spoon Curve. Now it looks like Gonzalez is actually trying to close back in onto Sam Thompson in front of me. Meanwhile, Howell has been overtaken by Nicholas Zorbach, unseen by the camera. So Howell has now been booted out of the points, and he's down into 11th place. I think any chance of points today, Yuri, is slipping away for Jordan Howell.
Yeah, the dream is over. His big dream to get at least a point, it's over now.
Yep, 4.4 the gap now. So I think Zolga able to gain a little bit on that time by? Because you mentioned it was 4.3 a little bit earlier on. I think it's now 4.4 now the gap. But he's finally cleared the traffic. And now Gomez will have to do the same thing if he wants to close up onto Zolga. He needs to now get by on both Kim Sung-min and Thomas Cassidy in front as they make their way through into the first couple of corners.
Zolga's pace on clean air looked surprisingly similar to Gomez, so the time he gained was because of the lap traffic. I'm not sure if Gomez will have enough pace.
Indeed, as here is Bruno de Barros looking very, very comfortable in third position. Meanwhile, Gonzalez has overtaken Thompson on track, so Gonzalez is up into fifth, and look at that, he's not far behind Bartsch Kloss, who, of course, let's not forget, got held up by that massive amount of cars, so Kloss might have to deal with both Ferraris in a little bit, Yuri.
Yeah, I think Kloss has given up.
I think he's now basically praying for something to happen to the Barros if he wants to win the championship today, as now Gomez is now coming up to this bit of traffic that Zolga had to deal with earlier. He's past Min, and now he's got to negotiate Thomas Cassidy in front before he has a clear track to try and gain onto Balint Zolga, as he now come around Spoon Curve now then. Into the hairpin there goes Bruno de Barros, as now he comes around the long swooping right-hander on the racetrack now then, as he makes his way towards Spoon Curve now then. 4.1 seconds, meanwhile, the gap between Zolga and Gomez. And meanwhile, Kirby is all over the back of Igor Peter with the fresher tyres, but can't get the move done into the double right-hander. Peter, meanwhile, is still stuck behind Zachary Fitzwater. He's been stuck behind him for quite a while. And just like with Zorbach a little bit earlier on, it seems that people are having trouble getting by on as well. Meanwhile, Bracky's into the pits. Is that a mechanical failure? Because we're on lap 34 of the race,
yes,
and it is a mechanical failure. Bracky has got a problem, and it's a loose wheel for Bartsch Bracky, so his season has not ended the way he hoped for there. It's a loose wheel, and luckily Bracky made it back into the pits, but he's now going to drop down to the back of the pack because his teammate has gone through, so he's now down in 20th position. As now Gomez is having trouble trying to lap Thomas Cassidy in front of him now then, as they make their way through the flat-out left-hander now then. I think Gomez should be able to dispose of him pretty quickly through here, which he is going to do. No, he doesn't, in fact.
What is Cassidy doing?
Cassidy's being a pain here, and now Gomez finally gets through, but I would not be surprised if Gomez stuck his finger up to him.
That was some... yeah, that wasn't how you should act in blue flag situation.
Yeah, indeed, as now he's got... now got pressure. Meanwhile, look at this. Kloss has now got Gonzalez all over the back of him now in the fight for fourth position. Kloss is going to have to deal with Ferraris behind the Spaniard. He's all over the back of Kloss here. Can Gonzalez get the move done? He's not close enough on the occasion, so he has to hang back for the time being. The more that these two fight, though, it could bring the other Ferrari of Sam Thompson into play and trying to get back at Rubino Gonzalez, who just overtook him a little bit earlier on, as they make their way up towards the hairpin now then. As meanwhile, the gap, look at how much time Gomez has lost because of that traffic. Well, now it's now up to 6.4 seconds, so it just shows how much Cassidy cost Gomez there going through into that double right-hander. But meanwhile, we now look at Gonzalez, who's trying to look to the inside of Bartsch Kloss, but he can't get the move done. He might have to wait for the 130R to get the move done on the Penske driver, as Kloss's championship continues to slip away from him here at Suzuka. As now, here comes Gonzalez. He's now on the inside of Bartsch Kloss. Can he get the move done heading into the 130R now then? Heading into 130R. Can he get the move done? The answer to that is no. Kloss holds on to the place for the time being. Gonzalez unable to get him on that occasion as they make their way through the Casio triangle. Thompson now getting closer to this fight as a result of Kloss defending from Gonzalez there. Through the right-hander we go, as we've got 6 laps to go of the season here at Suzuka. And now coming down back the pit straight now, then we go. Gonzalez not close enough to get a hold of Kloss on that occasion as they go through the first couple of corners on the racetrack now then. As now they come out of turn 2 now then, as now coming around the S's through the left, through into the right-hander we go. As meanwhile, de Barros has just lapped the 2 Viper cars there. As Kloss now then has got Gonzalez all over the back of him once again now then. Will Gonzalez get the move done on Kloss? He's a lot closer to him here than what he was on the previous lap. Can Gonzalez get the move done on Kloss this time by? He's going to go to the inside. Has Gonzalez got the move done? No, he's not. Kloss once again holds on to that position for the time being, and now Thompson is now with the pair of them, and it's now become a freeway scrap for 4th.
Yep, nice fight to end the season.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the two championship contenders that are squabbling. Meanwhile, Spain have won 7-0, by the way. It's now finished full time, so we have had the biggest score in the World Cup tournament so far. Spain winning 7-0 against Costa Rica. But anyway, back to World Champ Car now then, as meanwhile, Bracchi tries to find a way through on Gabriel there. As meanwhile, the two Ferrari drivers all over the back of Barci's Kloss, meanwhile, in the fight for 4th position. As now Gonzalez now going to have a look on the inside, going into the 130R. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. Once again, Kloss able to fend off from Gonzalez. That time by the Ferraris, giving Kloss a bit of bother in his final World Champ Car race for now, of course, because, as mentioned, for anybody who didn't hear, Kloss is actually returning to the top class next season with Haas. It's just a question, really, of who his teammate is going to be, really. There's a couple of contenders in this race who could get the seat, and you've also got the new Formula E champion, Michael Mocho, who's also a contender for that second Haas seat. Also, as well, we have Daniel Fraser as well, who could still get retained, but given what happened in Abu Dhabi, there's probably a good chance that Fraser might be booted out, but you never know, of course. We'll have to wait and see on that. But anyway, back to World Champ Car now then, as meanwhile, Mutka has got by on Florian Volker. Volker has now dropped a place, and now Mutka finds himself in a sandwich. Meanwhile, Zolka is now once again stuck behind some traffic, and it's a battling traffic again. This time involving Sopa and the Lamaya shank there of, I think that's TJ Papero there. So Zolga gets through there on Sopa, but he's having trouble now trying to get by on TJ Papero. As could that give Gomez the invitation that he needs? There's Gomez in the background. You just saw him there. It's down to 5.5 seconds. But even so, Yuri, I think because of that hold-up he had with Casti earlier, I think it's going to be a bit of an ask for Gomez to catch up to Zolga here.
Yeah, the gap is too large, considering he doesn't have the pace to actually gain that much on clean air. And now he has to do the same thing, overtake Babir and Sopa.
Zolga's now got by on those two sets of track. Meanwhile, Gonzalez again trying to have a go at Kloss into the 130R, but he's not going to work out. He's going to have to hang back for the moment as they make their way through into the Casio triangle now then. It's Thompson just watching on to see if anything happens to the pair of them. Places gained. Wow, Kirby and Zolga are tied with the most. Zolga gaining 6 places for his original start. Same goes for Kirby, who, unseen by the cameras, has actually overtaken Peter on track. So Kirby is up into 8th place, getting by on Igor Peter once again, as he's now behind Fitzwater on the racetrack. So it's 7th and 8th now for the two Chip Ganassi racing cars. As meanwhile, we look back at the battle for 4th position, meanwhile, as Gonzalez is trying everything he can to put Kloss under a bit of pressure here as they go through into the S's, through up towards the flat out. Left-hander we go, and can Gonzalez get the move done on Kloss going into the double right-hander now then? Gonzalez again trying to have a go, but it's not going to work out, and Thompson will look to see if he can take full advantage of that as they make their way through into the second part of that double right-hander now. As they go up towards the hill, towards the hairpin we will go on the racetrack, as now coming around the hairpin goes Sam Thompson. The gap is now 4.4 seconds now between Zolga and Gomez. So, of course, I'm not sure if Gomez has come up to that bit of traffic yet that we saw a little bit earlier that Zolga had to deal with. But we'll wait and see on that. Kloss having to go quite defensive, going through into Spoon Curve there as they'll make their way down the back straight now. Then can Gonzalez get the move done on Barci's Kloss now then as they go side by side towards 130R now then. Can Gonzalez get the move done? And no, he can't. Kloss once again just able to hold on for the time being as Gonzalez does everything he can to get by at this point in time now then. As the two Vipers are into combat. Bracchi on the inside of Yuri Gabriel there, but Gabriel just able to hold on for the time being. So we look back at Balint Zolga now. Then he's actually coming up to some more traffic in fact. Oh, Fitzwater's out! Zachary Fitzwater is out of the race! And, and he's pulled off. And I think that might put Howell into the points, I think. And it is. Howell is up into 10th place as a result of that. So Howell has just been given a point on a silver platter there. As a result, Zachary Fitzwater out of the race. And, well, that's such a shame, really. He was running very well, doing well defensively. It's a gearbox issue that has taken care of Fitzwater. What a shame to end the season for Fitzwater.
Yeah, poor luck for him, but others' bad luck is some people's good luck. And that means that Howell might actually get the point this season.
Yes, indeed, but of course there's still 3 laps to go. Anything could still happen at that point. Meanwhile, Gomez is not far behind Zolga, but I think it's still going to be a bit of an ass. The gap was 4.3 seconds last time by as Zolga started the penultimate lap of the season now then. 4.2, yeah, I think it's going to be too much of an ass for Gomez. I think as long as nothing happens to Zolga, I think he's going to do enough to take his first win of the season, and a great way for Pyramid to end their partnership with BMW. Of course, they are still going to have BMW engines next season, but they're not going to be the main BMW team, and it'll be a good way for them to end their partnership. It'll be the second win of the season for Pyramid as a result. Gonzalez was once again trying to have a go at Kloss into the 130R, but it's not going to work out as they make their way through to the Casio triangle now. Then through the right-hander he goes as Gonzalez does everything he can to get by on Barch's Kloss in front now then as Gonzalez, he's not close enough on that occasion to get all the Klosses. He's also got Thompson breathing down his neck as they come around the S's now then. Through the right-hander will go will now go the battle for fourth as Gomez trying everything he can. He's just praying, but I think it's going to be too much of an ask for him to get his second victory of the season. As meanwhile, while he's going on in that fight for fourth, as Bracky can't find a way through on Gabriel. Now, can Gonzalez get the move done on Kloss this time by going into the double right-hander? Gonzalez on the inside. Can he get the move done? The answer to that is no. And once again, he falls into the clutches of his teammate Sam Thompson as they come out of the second part and go underneath the crossover section of the racetrack now then as they make their way down or up towards the hairpin now then for the penultimate time today now then as they will now come around long to right-hander. But meanwhile, Zolga has just started his final lap of the race and the final lap of the season. The gap down to 3.1 seconds between himself and Gabriel Gomez, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Gomez to close up. I think Zolga has just done enough to get the victory. A brilliant, brilliant race from the Hungarian driver. Started down in 7th place, but his race pace today was absolutely insane. Absolutely amazing. And if he can keep this up, he is looking good to take his first ever win in World Champ Car and take Pyramid's second win of the season, and a brilliant way for the team to end their partnership with BMW. Of course, as mentioned, they will still have BMW engines next season, but they will only be a customer team to BMW next season, thanks to BMW moving their partnership over with McLaren, thanks to them having a partnership with them in the top class. But Zolga just comes out of the hairpin now then as he makes his way towards the long swooping right-hander. The gap is down to 2.7 seconds meanwhile between himself and Gomez. Gomez continuing to gain onto Zolga, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Zolga to get for Gomez to get the victory as he comes out of Spoon Curve now then, making his way down the back straight now then for the 40th and final time today. There's Gomez in the background, but he's just too far away to get a hold of Zolga as he now makes his way through 130R now then for the 40th and final time now then. He has done a brilliant job from 7th on the grid, and after a tricky season for Zolga, he's going to end the season in the best way possible as he comes around the final corner, and Zolga is going to take the final win of 2021, his first win in World Champ Car, as he wins here at Suzuka. A brilliant drive from him. Well done to Zolga. Second place goes to Gabriel Gomez as we wait now for the champion in waiting to come across the line very, very soon as we wait to see where on earth he is as all these guys go through. There he is! Bruno de Barros comes around the final corner for the 40th and final time. Bruno de Barros crosses the line in 3rd place, and Bruno de Barros is the 2021 World Champ Car champion. He has done it. He becomes the first ever World Champ Car champion, and fully deserved from the Brazilian. Well done to Bruno de Barros. Yuri Gabriel crosses the line in 18th, just beats his teammate to 19th. No points for Gabriel. Kloss, unfortunately, just misses out on the title. He finishes in 4th. Gonzalez in 5th. Thompson in 6th. Kloss was able to hold on to the 2 Ferraris in the end. Kirby is going to cross the line in 7th. A good recovery for him, considering he started down in 14th. Kirby will cross the line in 7th place. Nicholas Zorbach will cross the line in 8th position in the end. P9 goes to Igor Peter in the Andretti. A disappointing race for him. And Jordan Howe is finally going to get his first points of the season in the McLaren. Jordan Howe crosses the line in 10th. He got it gifted thanks to Fitzwater's retirement, but Howe picks up the final point in 10th. Finally, points for Jordan Howe. Simon Mutka is going to cross the line in 11th place. He just misses out on points in the Carlin. P12 for Florian Volker. Not the best way for his season to end, given the good qualifying that both of the McLarens had earlier on. So P12 for him. Alex Lucien, 13th for him. Not exactly the best rookie season for him, but P13 nonetheless. But Zolga is the winner here at Suzuka. But your champion of 2021 and your first ever World ChampCar champion is Bruno de Barros. Congratulations to him indeed. So let's have a look at the final results of the season. Balint Zolga takes his first win with Gabriel Gomez in second. Bruno de Barros, the brand new champion, is in third with Bartosz Kloss fourth. Rubino Gonzalez is in fifth with Sam Thompson sixth. Joao Pedro Kirby is in seventh with Nicolas Zorbach eighth. Igor Peter in ninth with Jordan Howe in 10th. Simon Mutka is in 11th with Florian Volker 12th. Alex Lucien 13th with Frederick Soper 14th, TJ Papera 15th, Thomas Cassidy is in 16th with Kim Sung-min 17th, Yuri Gabriel 18th, Bartosz Bracki 19th, Zachary Fitzwater was classified in 20th, albeit thanks to that retirement, with Toby Holloway and Francesco La Rosa, the only two classified retirements. And the fastest lap of the race goes to Gabriel Gomez. So even though he didn't get the victory, he is going to get the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race and also for that pole position he got as well. But there you have it then. That has been it from the 2021 World Champ Car season. I think it's safe to say, Yuri, a very, very successful first ever season for World Champ Car.
Yeah, I'm. This series has been positive for the OC, I think.
Yes, indeed. And congratulations to Bruno de Barros on winning the title in World Champ Car. The first ever World Champ Car title, and fully deserved nonetheless. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it from the 2021 World Champ Car season. I hope you have enjoyed it. A very successful first ever season, and I can't wait to see what 2022 has to offer. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Of course, next week we have the top class finale over at Interlagos, where both Franco Gamba and Amar Kar will fight it out to become the champion. And yeah, both of them tied a piece. Winner takes all at Interlagos next week. World Champ Car will return in around about January, same time as Formula E for the start of the 2022 season. But in the meantime, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. Once again, congratulations to Bruno de Barros on becoming the first ever World Champ Car champion. Thank you all for watching. I'm JW97. He's been the host, Yuri Marta, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.